Well, hello, everybody. Good evening and a happy Saturday to you. So, I actually got started slightly late tonight. So, forgive me as we go through our recap if I'm doing a couple of housekeeping things on my side, because I got sidetracked. How did I get sidetracked? What a fantastic sounding question. If you guys have never heard that before, that's just like a subtle way of throwing out your question's stupid, but it sounds like it should be a good question. It is a good question, but I just love to use what a fantastic sounding question. Um, as you guys can see from my screen, any of you guys who, Tronis, I do not disagree with you. Uh, it's growing, but it's growing slowly. Um, but as you guys may notice, for anybody who has been here before or has been here recently, typically I had my pictures up there. I had the book on the right-hand side, which I continue to do now. I had my video at the bottom. I've moved it up to the top, so that way you get to see more of my face right away. And I have changed my little message below. It was remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Well, to be honest, most of the people who are finding my videos to watch aren't necessarily coming here for the live streams. I would love it if more people were coming for the live streams, but they're just not. And so, based on a recommendation from one of my author friends who happened to be the author of Once Upon a Time in Detroit. If you haven't watched that on the YouTube channel, make sure you go check it out. Got the first 3 chapters up there for you to listen to right now. Check it out. It was a good book. I enjoyed it. But he recommended I kind of rebrand a little bit on here. And he's not wrong. I've had that other message up here for quite a while, but I want to make sure that I am doing the right things for myself and for my, voiceover work and voiceover business. Excuse me one moment. Like I said, housekeeping. How to get myself my drink? I'm making myself some hot chocolate to have during my stream tonight. For, the times when I'll actually be able to get out there and drink it. But so you guys will see that there has been a change. So it now, rather than having the Sir Arminius name on there, because yes, that is the title of my channel, but most of the people who are watching the videos are already on Sir Arminius on YouTube. They don't need that reminder. Instead, what this does is it highlights, my name is Tim Maloney. There you go. It says so right below. And what is my goal? Bringing the written word to life. I'm a professional narrator and live reader. So that's what I have done for some updates right now. There may be some more tweaks because I got involved in this. I got to doing this. And I ran out of time because it was time for me to come and read to all of you. So that's what we will be doing now. So there you go. A little bit different look. Some slight housekeeping that needed to be done on my side to make sure that everything was up and going correctly. And now it is time for us to get involved in our reading for tonight. And of course, tonight we continue The Flow, a hedonist guide to Buddhism, meditation, and travels in Thailand. A travelogue memoir by Lawrence Davidson. As he refers to himself in the book, he is Larry. He is Larry Davidson. Now, today is Valentine's Day. For those of you guys where it's still the 14th, so happy Valentine's Day. If it's me reminding you right now that it's Valentine's Day, it's too late. You're already in trouble if you have a significant other. My wife and my half-year anniversary is on February 13th. So we always celebrate on February 13th for our anniversary, half anniversary, and Valentine's Day. Inspired by the flow, we went out for Thai food yesterday. And I went and had some pad Thai. It was okay. It wasn't my favorite food, but it was okay. I liked when I got the peanut bits, the little crunchy peanuts in there. I liked that part. Anyway, we are continuing into our very long chapter on Bangkok this evening. This is our third reading session of our Bangkok chapter, and we'll be diving into part 3. Gotta love it. It's so long. But overall, it has been enjoyable. If we're able to, we'll get into a part 4. I believe there's only 3 parts. We'll get into another chapter if we can tonight. If we can't, well, hey, 3 reading sessions to get through 1 chapter, that seems fair. We saw the continued evolving of the relationship between Larry and Charlie last time around. Charlie for short. A Thai native girl who runs a fruit stand, and the two of them have become rather intimate with each other through their course of being here. As I have mentioned to many of you, I don't read these books ahead. I don't know what's coming. I don't know if Larry and Charlie end up together. I don't know if something breaks them apart. I do not know what the future holds. How are you going to know? How am I going to know? Well, that's easy. By continuing to listen to me read, or you can always stop out and pick up The Flow by Lawrence Davidson. I know it is available on Amazon as well as some other places, I am sure. You can also get out there and check out Larry's Substack and him on Goodreads, some various places that you can go and check him out. Links to a couple of those places are on both the YouTube and Rumble videos. The descriptions of the live video here, or if you go back and check out youtube.com/@SirArminius, any of the recorded videos will have the links that you can go and check out Larry. So now, wherever you happen to be, if you're somewhere cold, get yourself a hot drink. If you're somewhere hot, get yourself a cold drink. Sit down, put your feet up, grab a blanket if you would. Relax and prepare to enjoy as we dive into our continued series of reading in the author book The Flow, a hedonist guide to Buddhism, meditation, and travels in Thailand, a travelogue memoir by Lawrence Davidson. As we pick up here together on Bangkok Siren Song, Part 3. Bangkok is a city where food isn't just a part of life, it is life. With 180 Michelin-rated restaurants, from crystal chandeliered temples of gastronomy to roadside carts with cracked plastic stools and a line of people sweating through their clothes. Add to that 320,000 unrated restaurants and 500,000 street carts. The sheer number of options could bring a hungry person either to joyful tears or choice paralysis. Those numbers are not an exaggeration. They're fact. But with all those chefs and cooks, moms, pops, aunties, and uncles manning friolators and woks feeding the city, a question arises. Where do they get all that stuff? The answer, 9 times out of 10, is Klong Toei Market. sprawling across 14 acres like a crazed foodie's dream come true. The live meats, almost anything on four hooves, feathered things that quack, cluck, and squawk, flapping fins and scaly tails, creepy crawlers, and everything that grows in, on, above, below, or anywhere near dirt. Klong Toi is the largest wet market in Thailand and among the biggest in the world. It's open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, which means no matter when you show up, pre-dawn, midday, post-dinner, or mid-insomnia, you'll stumble into a high-octane ballet of buying, chopping, hauling, bagging, yelling, selling, and the occasional chicken trying to make a run for it. It's not a place so much as an ecosystem. Part trading floor, part slaughterhouse, part jungle bazaar, part bowl of something yummy binge. And if you stand still too long, someone will either sell you a massive fistful of basil or run over your foot with a cart full of jackfruit. But the true magic of Klong Toi is its unswerving devotion to seasonality. If it's not in season, it's not there. No plastic tubs of sad-looking blueberries flown in from who knows where. No asparagus in October unless it's somehow Thai-grown and looking smug about it. This is radical freshness, dictated by sun, soil, and sea. And that's a beautiful thing. It forces you to eat now, in tune with the land, which is how humans were meant to eat before we started vacuum sealing and cryo-freezing everything and calling it progress. If you've never been to a wet market, the term might sound suspiciously like a horror movie setting. In a way, it kind of is. The phrase, coined in 1970s Singapore, was meant to distinguish the live markets from the sterile, pre-wrapped, shrink-filmed supermarkets that were beginning to pop up and gain popularity. Wet refers to the floor, which is perpetually slick with melted ice, sloshed water, and the occasional fish scale or goat hoof. It's part slaughterhouse, part bloody slip and slide. Think of it as a visceral, full contact shopping experience. The aroma? A dizzying cocktail of lemongrass, garlic and onions, blood, brine, and two-stroke oil. It hits you like a slap to the nasal passages, but weirdly, you grow to love that slap quickly. Thank you, sir. May I have another? But what really dazzles is the range of products available. This is not your pretty, air-conditioned Whole Foods experience. You'll find seafood wriggling with life, chickens and ducks shooting you the stink eye from inside bamboo and metal cages, and cuts of meat that would send your local butcher into either lust or cardiac arrest. You'll see vendors expertly shaving green papayas into translucent ribbons or hacking coconuts with machetes that double as thumb removal devices, and entire families shelling shrimp at lightning speed while gossiping and slurping tom kha from a bag with a straw. And the fruits and the vegetables, from sweet to savory, piles upon piles of alien-looking things. Leaves the size of umbrellas, chilies that come in 100 shades of red, green, purple, yellow, with silent warnings, and herbs so fragrant they could jerk you awake from a dead faint. Need something obscure? Try fermented crab paste, banana blossoms, or frog. Yes, frog. Available skinned or still hopping, depending on how brave you were feeling and how you were preparing. At Klong Toi, waste is a dirty word. Everything moves fast, everything has a use, and everyone knows what they're doing. It's not chaos, it's choreography. A blood-slick, basil-scented, strangely beautiful dance that doesn't stop. This also isn't just a market for curious tourists snapping photos of fish heads. Michelin-starred chefs, curry-slinging street vendors, and grandmas making dinner for the family all shop there. Because if you want the best, that is where you go. And because Klong Toei never stops, it always has surprises. An unfamiliar mushroom one day, a fish with neon fins the next. It's a living, breathing tribute to what Thailand grows, raises, catches. And if you know how to look, and don't mind getting a little wet, you'll find the soul of Thai cuisine right here, somewhere between a bucket of live clams and a pig's head. The morning slipped in quietly, the light soft and golden, like a hand slowly brushing back a curtain. At some point, Charlie must have risen to blow out the candles, but I hadn't noticed, not with the spell she'd cast over the room and over me. Sleep came easy beside her, like a sweet scented promise kept, the kind of calm that finds you only when you've stopped chasing it. As my mind began to stir, tucked against her warmth, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with the day. But waking her? Not a chance. That would have been a crime against beauty. I shifted just enough to pull her closer, arms wrapping around her like a shield against time. I let myself settle, breathing in the scent of her hair and breath, and slipped into a quiet meditation that wasn't about mantras, but something more present in the here and now. I must have dozed off again because the next thing I felt was a kiss that had no end pressed gently to my cheek, a whisper of a touch that pulled me back from the edge of dreams. I smiled without opening my eyes and drew her in, our bodies aligning instinctively, like puzzle pieces that had waited years to find each other. "Good morning, beautiful," I murmured, my voice still thick with sleep. "Good morning, honey," she whispered back, her voice like sweet tea. "Klong Toei Market?" I quietly asked, gently brushing her hair from her face. "Mm-hmm," she hummed into my chest, nodding a subtle yes without letting go. And that was all the planning the day needed. There were still times when we had to lean on our phone translators, but Charlemagne was quick, sharp in a way that made me wonder if she was secretly grading me. She soaked up every English word I tossed her way with the focus of a scholar and the delight of someone solving unfathomable mysteries. Meanwhile, I continued to trip over Thai tonal inflections like a one-legged guy in a jitterbug dance contest. Still, she never lost patience, gently correcting me with that soft smile that let me know I'd butchered something, probably hilariously. She often asked me to speak only in English. "I want to hear more words," she'd say, and whenever something didn't make sense, she'd stop me and ask. I loved that. There was no rush or embarrassment or timidity, just our quiet little workshops of language and laughter we built between kisses and coffee. After a long and lazy morning wrapped in each other's arms, we swapped stories, the ones that matter, the ones about who we were before now, our loves, our losses, our irrational hatreds. I confessed mine: advertising, politicians, hypocrisy, lies, and fascists. Not necessarily in that order. Though I made sure to clarify that I didn't actually hate anyone, I just reserved the right to be selectively exasperated. I was sure the neighbors were beginning to wonder about the random bursts of laughter spilling out of Charlemoine's little one. Let them wonder. Behind that wooden door, we were busy sketching the outlines of our own private language, part dictionary, part inside joke, part tender confessions. It was made up of mismatched words and the kind of laughter that takes its time, a language built slowly, joyfully, without needing to be fluent. We got to the market just shy of 10 a.m. I thought I knew what to expect. I'd been to many wet markets. I'd braced myself for mayhem, for noise, for the kind of glorious disarray and volume that's usually confined to children's birthday parties with a whole lot of sugar. But really, nothing could have prepared me for the sheer insanity of choreographed crazy that engulfed us from every angle. If gravity suddenly gave up the ghost, the scene would have gone full 360. A swirling ecosystem of food, bodies, and barely contained anarchy. I felt like a feather in a tornado, in a really good way. Every stall was in full swing, doing brisk business at a pace that would make a stock exchange floor during a buying frenzy green with envy. There was no pause, no lull, no observable system to the current of humanity surging all around us. Maybe a supercomputer, given a few years and an unhealthy caffeine dependency, could detect a pattern. I could not. We parked ourselves near the poultry section, me with a bowl of pho, and Charlie with something that looked like larb but had more red and green chilies in it than the baskets a few aisles over. The ambience was somewhere between industrial raw and don't breathe through your nose. Still, the pho was delicious, balanced, wonderfully spiced and comforting, and loaded with all the things I like. And you don't. Which made the squawking and occasional flapping behind us feel like just another flavor note. I wouldn't recommend dining next to the poultry section for appetite stimulation, unless your idea of a light lunch includes side-eyeing a chicken that might still be considering its options and nasal-clearing waves of ammonia. But I was way too intrigued by the surrounding circus to care. I want to cook for you tonight. It's why I wanted to come to the market, I told Charlie, already envisioning myself attempting haute cuisine in her kitchen, which was about the size of a coat closet and powered by prayer. May I? As if she had any real chance of stopping me. You can cook for me? She replied, eyes lighting up with a kind of wide-eyed excitement usually reserved for street musicians or really expensive Jimmy Choos. Absolutely. I'd be honored, I said, beaming, yet sweating inside because I'd never checked to see if her kitchen actually had a stove. It was all based on assumption. And it looks like everything we could possibly need is right here, no matter what you desire. I gestured toward the glorious madness of Klong Toei. All we have to do is go hunting. Worst case, we improvise with one pot and a prayer. So, what can I make you for dinner tonight? She winked conspiratorially. Spaghetti and meatballs, she said, absolutely deadpan. No irony, no hesitation, no local influence. Full Lady and the Tramp energy. Oh, shit. Of all the dishes and all the stalls and all of Klong Toei, she had to walk into mine. Now, I'm perfectly fine and more than capable when it comes to making fresh pasta. I've done that plenty of times. But I always had the help of the KitchenAid stand mixer and my trusty Marcato Atlas hand-cranked pasta machine, which were currently collecting dust far away on a different continent. I'd seen burrito boxes in Bangkok supermarkets. If worst came to worst, dry pasta was an option. But I had visions of doing it all from scratch, start to finish. A culinary love letter, if you will. Still, I needed a compromise. How about lasagna? What is lasagna? She asked, adorably butchering the word like it was dead weight. Repeat after me. Lasagna, I teased. She nailed it. Pitch perfect. Then blinked back at me, waiting for the explanation. Think spaghetti and meatballs, but better. It's layered with a lot of yummy things in between pasta sheets, and instead of hand-cutting noodles, I can roll out big sheets. As I wondered where the hell in Bangkok I was going to find double O flour, semolina, and Sangiovese-based red wine that was drinkable. She gave me a look that like I'd sprouted a third arm out of my forehead. Do you trust me? I asked. Charleroi gave me a direct stare down, took my hands in hers, without breaking eye contact the way she loves to do, said with emphasis, I do. I desperately tried to match her fierce gaze. Okay then. I tried not to think too hard about those two little words in another context. Yet a part of me heard her obvious intentions loud and clear. Not surprisingly, procuring the basics in that market was a piece of cake. I asked Charlie if she would translate and requested tasting samples as we roamed and browsed, and within an hour of lazy strolling, though an hour filled with foodie lust and wonder, pointing in the occasional, what the hell is that? Our hands were full of small bags. The tomatoes tasted like tomatoes should, juicy, sweet, umami, and supernaturally tomatoey. I found a plump and pungent head of dark red garlic with big, meaty cloves, a couple of firm yellow onions, two ultra-tight shallots that I could smell from 10 feet away, and a bag of fresh wild greens tossed together to my specs. Charlie translated like a pro, while casually flexing her growing command of English, all the while corralling vendors like she owned the joint. They paid attention to her. Everybody does. Then came the mushrooms. God, the mushrooms! I wanted them all, but settled on one perfect maitake and three ginormous porcini that could have been fungus porn stars. Every bit of produce and fungi looked like a food magazine editor had styled it. Herbs and spices? Fresh bay leaf, mint, oregano, thyme, marjoram, and basil bagged. Dried fennel seeds and crushed red pepper? Got 'em. Half a dozen free-range organic eggs. Tossed in. I checked the eggs by asking for one. Eggman handed one over for inspection. I cracked it, split the shell, opened it up to reveal a deep orange yolk with a perfectly clear albumin. He looked at me with that obvious glare that says, You know I'm charging you for that, right? I slurped it down and paid $7. Charlie grimaced. I snickered. Eggman grinned. I asked her about salt, pepper, and sugar. She had those at home, and everything was organic, but nobody made a fuss about it or jacked the price using organic as leverage. It just was. Total damage so far? Just shy of $8. With a little guidance from Mushroom Man, we navigated to the meat section and found the butcher he recommended. I asked for 3/4 pound of beef and half pound of pork, freshly ground to order. Of course it was. Why wouldn't it be? And then he hand-mixed it for me at Charlie's request. I had filled her in on how it would be used. I was seriously beginning to think she knew way more about cooking than she led me to believe. Now came the tricky part. Italian imports. If I couldn't find the right ingredients, this dish would fall apart faster than a bad first date. An idea hit. I pulled out my phone and texted Jax. Hey, brother, I'm in a jam and need help. Where are you? I'll come to you. Are you okay? Need a lawyer? Jax replied. Oh, shit. Sorry. I didn't mean to sound the alarm. We're at Klong Toi and I'm cooking for Charlie tonight. Can I borrow some restaurant gear? If not, that's totally cool too. My phone rang immediately. As you Americans say, asshole, you scared me, Farang. So what are you cooking? What do you need? Jax asked. I'm making fresh pasta sheets into lasagna. Do you know what that is? Jakapan paused. Loudly paused. Dude, come on. That hurts. Who are you talking to? What do you need? I rattled off my wish lists, but then came the million-baht question. Where the hell in Bangkok could I find a legit Italian wholesale supply store? Not a shelf of overpriced, thin balsamic, past prime but still expensive EVOO, and dried out pasta at a high-end supermarket. Where was the real deal to be had? The kind of place that smells like Parmesan, shipping crates, artichokes, gun, and olive oil. Ideally, somewhere close to so I wouldn't be schlepping produce across town in traffic that moves like coagulated blood. He texted me a pin. I opened the map and grinned. Only a few blocks away. Perfect. Check and check. While I was busy confirming directions, Jack said he'd snag everything I needed from the restaurant, then followed it up with a second message. They have flours, oils, cheeses, canned Italian stuff, whatever you want. The place he sent me to wasn't just a specialty store. It was the Italian importer and distributor that supplied nearly every Italian restaurant in Bangkok, and plenty beyond. Without skipping a beat, Jakapan texted again. I'll call them. Tell them it's all for me. They take care of you. Just sign and pay me back. Just like that, the back door to Bangkok's Italian underground swung open. All I had to do now was show up and pretend like I belonged. And, of course, step gingerly over any bodies that may be in the way. I hated to leave the market. There was still so much to ogle, sniff, and impulse buy. Yes, I'll take those 4 loaves of sweetbreads. Klopkun krab. But duty called. Homemade pasta and lasagna layers are no quick task, and I wanted to knock Charlie sideways with this meal, simply to prove I wasn't kidding when I said I could cook. Making everything from scratch is time-consuming and messy, and there was no time to lose if I wanted to keep the juggernaut rolling. All this time, Charlie was holding onto my arm, eyeing me, genuinely fascinated. You keep all that in head? She asked. Yeah, and so much more, I said, half smiling. It's not all that great. Most days and many nights I can't shut it off. That's why I meditate so much. She looked at me with a sympathetic gaze and squeezed me gently. We hopped into a tuk-tuk with a driver named Minnie, who had a wild accent that sounded like Bangkok meets East End London. Where to, governor? With a Y. I told him the name of the importer and asked if he'd wait while we gathered goodies. I promised I'd make it worth his time. He grinned, cranked up some Thai disco pop from the 80s, and flipped on the rotating LED light bars. Gave us a salute over his shoulder, and we were off. Inside, things moved fast. Jax's call had paved the way like an all-access VIP pass at a stadium concert. The staff was all business. No upselling, no small talk, no bullshit. Just brisk, efficient professionalism. I was handed both fresh and dried goods sheets and a checklist. I ran down the supplies I needed, handed it over, and within 10 minutes it was boxed and bagged. All I had to do was sign the receipt. I asked for the itemized bot breakdown so I could pay Jax's tab off. I walked out with kilo bags, the smallest they carried, of both Double O and Semolina flours, a 500 milliliter bottle of ultra-premium first cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil, the kind that makes you question your perceptions of grocery store oil forever, a tub of fresh ricotta, a wedge of Parmesan, a 2-pack of low-moisture mozzarella, a 250 milliliter bottle of 18-year aged balsamic vinegar, and tomato paste and sauce. What kind you want? The man asked. They had everything San Marzano. Crushed, sauce, whole peeled, sliced, diced, roasted, toasted, pastes, double concentrates. It was like standing in the Italian goods aisle in heaven. I was in business. Walking out of there with 2 boxes of products that would have made any Nona in North Beach drop her cane and shout, Mamma Mia! The gods of gastronomy had smiled on me. I had everything I needed to make lasagna from scratch with no compromises or shortcuts. If I fucked this up, that would be on me, as it wasn't going to be because I didn't have the right ingredients. As if fate itself had decided to make my life easier, I'd asked about wine and the staff at the wholesaler. He handed me the address to a wine shop that was conveniently down the block and around a corner. Thank you, universe. Charlie typed the details into her phone and turned to Minnie, our tuk-tuk driver, who had been quietly eyeing my haul like I was smuggling contraband. Charlie said something in Thai to him. I had no clue what she said, but his gaze changed. Minnie, looking back at the pile of produce, meats, pasta, flour, and cheeses that would have made even the most jaded food snob's heart skip a beat, then looked at me, gave me a crooked smile, and a thumbs up. At the Wine Pro Bangkok, I got lucky. Again. Behind the counter, the clerk spoke flawless English. A little too flawless. It was almost like she was in the middle of a sommelier cosplay, only there was no time for games. I needed wine, and I needed it fast. Pasta with red sauce? She asked as soon as I started talking about grapes, profiles, bodies, and alcohol percentages I was looking for. I was impressed. And if you really knew me, that's a hard thing to accomplish in the wine world. She wasn't wasting time with small talk. Nice deduction. I'm looking for 2 bottles, both Sangio based. I need a sauce and slurp wine, and then a knock your socks off sex in a bottle of Brunello. I'd love it if you have an older vintage. Charlie blushed at my description. Nice. That's easy. I have a couple of ideas, but you'll have to choose the vintage on the Luce. I have 9 years available. By the counter was a vertical open-faced cooler with cheeses, olives, charcuterie, and butter. Next to that was a wicker basket loaded with Italian loaves of bread. I leaned down to smell. Those came in an hour ago, still warm. I reached out to touch one, and indeed, it was slightly warm. After a few more back and forths, I picked out a 2016 Luce Brunello de Montalcino as the heavy hitter, and a 2019 Tueta di Arceno Chianti Classico for cooking and casual slurping. Then my eye caught a 500 milliliter bottle of Oremus 5 Putonios Tokaji. Look it up. Don't be lazy. That I couldn't resist for dessert. I also grabbed a couple wedges of freshly creamed butter and a crusty loaf of bread. This wasn't just about sustenance. It was about crafting an experience. The sauce needed to taste like St. Lawrence had personally descended to stir the pot, which meant garlic bread was non-negotiable. And the wine? It ought to have our taste buds doing backflips. Minnie pulled his tuk-tuk up into the closest alley to Charlie's Lane and helped us carry everything to her walkway. There were 8 bags and 3 boxes to haul, so the help was more than welcomed. I asked him how much we owed for the fare. He'd driven us all over the place, waited until we needed him. He was efficient, fast, fun, funny, and looked out for us. His taste in music was questionable, but Charlie had been bopping along to the tunes and was absolutely adorable with her cheeky little seated dance moves, so, as bad as the music was to my ears, I loved it. Minnie told me the ridiculously reasonable fare, about $12. I doubled it. He tried to refuse because ties are like that. I looked at Charlie for backup, whispering in her ear to help me seal the deal. She read him the riot act in such a kind way and with that devastating smile of hers, that when he finally agreed, he asked for my phone, typed his number into WhatsApp, and said, "Mate, anytime you need ride, call me." Respect, honor, generosity of heart and soul going both ways makes for some lifetime friendships. Minnie and I still chat from time to time. I was invited to his son's wedding, but couldn't make it. That made me sad because nothing says welcome to the family like an invitation into their personal history. Minnie took off, and, well, I hauled everything into her place. Only then did I notice a stack of gear off to the side of the front door. Jax had come through. The guy knew how to deliver. I texted Jax immediately. "So, You must really want to test me out. Can the farang cook? No, I just didn't want the old man getting hurt carrying my gear from the restaurant. Followed by an emoji raspberry face. I'll make sure to include special sauce in your portion. Followed by tears laughing emoji. In the restaurant world, special sauce is a loaded term. It could mean anything from biologically creative to truly disgusting. I'm not that chef. But the threat? Real. Anyone who's worked in kitchens for long enough knows. If you piss off the chef or the line cooks, the consequences can be dire. Ever seen those young, tattooed, angry cooks in the back? Think long and hard before sending that plate back for a little tweak because you didn't like the way the sauce was seasoned. You ordered it. You eat it. When I cook anything beyond a simple dish, I disappear. Like full on ghost mode. My head ducks down low, practically wedged in my own backside, and all that escapes is the relentless chop chop of knife on board, pre-measuring and combining ingredients so they flow in order into whatever the dish requires. Focused is an insult to how dialed in I get. I'm not just cooking, I'm in the trenches, waging culinary war with onions, garlic, peppers, and whatever else needs slicing, dicing, and julienning. There might be some mild swearing because, honestly, what's a kitchen without a little salty language? But mostly I don't look up. I don't ask or answer questions. I'm on a mission. So just before I dove in, I took Charlie's hands in mine and gave her the heads up. Look, honey, I'm about to check out for a bit. Please don't worry or be sad. I'm not ignoring you. This is just how I make sure dinner ends up in a place in your memory and brings you joy every time you think about it. She looked at me with that knowing smile, the kind that makes me think she's plotting something, probably how to steal the last piece, and said, Then do it. I'm here if you need me. She put in that emphasis. Just saying. Buddha! That woman slays me with her double entendres. I'd come to realize she does it on purpose. I completely annihilated Charlie's small tabletop encounter in no time, smothering every inch with a carpet of flour, egg yolks, salt, and water to conjure up a proper pasta dough. I was used to my trusty shortcut enabling stand mixer back home. Kneading that stiff, stubborn mixture into a smooth, glossy ball of dough for a full 10 minutes? My forearms burned like I'd been arm wrestling a grizzly bear, but I was way too deep in the zone to care. This was sacred territory, and I wasn't about to quit. Then, reality hit me. I'd forgotten plastic wrap in my shopping flurry. Damn! There was no way to let the dough rest and hydrate properly. Cue up my first kitchen crisis with foreboding music. Charlie, do you have any plastic wrap? I called out, hoping she knew what I was talking about and not realizing she'd been right next to me the whole time, silently observing my every move. She blinked once, then twice, gave me that long, slow, knowing smile like she was both amused and slightly concerned, and vanished out the front door. 5 painfully long minutes later, as I cleaned up, she returned triumphantly with a roll of plastic wrap, looking like she'd just finished a marathon. Hair wild, cheeks flushed. I leaned over and gave her a quick peck on the cheek and thanks. She was nothing short of a hero. I wrapped that dough as if it was precious cargo and placed it gently into her little fridge while I moved on to prep the rest of the ingredients. The sauce was the heart and soul of this whole operation, and I was dead set on making it so good it'd bring everyone and anyone to their knees sobbing with joy. I poured a generous glug of Evo into the pot, cranked the heat just shy of medium-high, and tossed in the diced onions, garlic, and shallots. The kitchen began to thicken with that intoxicating aroma, sweet, sharp, and mouth-watering. I let the onions and garlic base sweat for a few minutes, giving the fragrance time to take over the cramped space like some old-world magic. When the onions turned soft and translucent, I added a small splash of water, a classic old-school trick to coax the alumins to break down gently without scorching. I stirred it in, watching for the transformation to unfold like magic. Then came the tomato paste. I gently worked that into the mix until the base turned a deep, rich brick red, thick and promising. Next, I dumped in the canned Centro San Marzano tomatoes, saving the fresh ones for layering in the lasagna. Layers of flavors is what lasagna is all about. Separate, then merge in each bite. Kind of like a burger, but, well, better. I threw in a couple of bay leaves, a pinch of sugar to balance the acids like a sneaky friend, a thick slab of butter, my personal non-traditional twist, because life's too short, and a half dozen drops of balsamic vinegar, the dark, tangy, umami acidic note that rounds out the whole thing. As it simmered, the kitchen filled with the warm, nostalgic scent of a Sunday family dinner, the kind of smell that burrows deep in your memory, makes your stomach ache in the best way, and leaves you counting the seconds until you get to taste it. I asked Charlie to pull the dough out of the fridge so it could warm up to room temperature because if you are new to fresh pasta, cold dough is a damned nightmare to roll out. You try to stretch it, and it fights you back like a stubborn ex refusing to let go. While the dough was loosening up, I shifted gears to the meats. I grabbed the sauté pan, cranked the heat, and dumped the ground beef and pork mixture. I seasoned it simply because you want that meaty flavor layer to shine through. Salt, cracked black pepper, fennel seeds for that hint of sweet anise, a good pinch of red pepper flakes to remind everyone who's boss, and oregano for the herbal backbone. The sizzle sang its satisfying song as the meat went through its Maillard reaction, transforming from pale and raw to that thick, caramelized goodness that promises depth. I skimmed off the excess fat with practiced ease, set the meat aside, and let out a little nod of approval. Things were moving along exactly the way they should. Then, Charlie, with purely good intention, reached for the pan, heading toward the sink to clean it. Without thinking, without, without thinking at all, I barked, "No!" Just that one sharp and sudden word, like a slap in a quiet room. The instant it left my mouth, I felt it. 100-pound dumbbell of regret dropping straight onto my chest. Her face froze, that flicker of shock and hurt flashing in her eyes. I'd just punched her emotionally. The question was clear. Did I mean to be that cruel? In that moment, I realized with brutal clarity I was a goddamn idiot. I stopped cold, took a slow, steadying breath. That wasn't me. I used to get unreasonably angry due to situations that hurt me to the core. Not anymore. Those days were gone. Without hesitation, I reached out, pulled her into a tight, desperate embrace, like trying to patch the cracks in my own stupid heart, and now hers. "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. That came out all wrong," I whispered, each word heavy with regret. I held her tight, quietly explaining how the flavors from the thin sheen of remaining meat fat and enriched protein sugars would deepen the mushrooms as they cooked. But the words felt thin, inadequate, and irrelevant against the space I'd just carved between us. Then I slunk down to my knees at her feet, looking up, hoping she'd see the raw honesty in my eyes. "Please, please, forgive me. I am so sorry," I whispered, barely above breath, praying she'd find it in her heart. She looked down at me for a moment that seemed an eternity, her face undecipherable, then smacked the top of my head, but with unmistakable warmth, and there was a smirk lurking in her eyes, the kind that said, "Don't ever do that again, idiot." "I told you, I disappear when I cook," I said, voice thick and lumpy, still carrying the weight of my apology. "I'm truly embarrassed, and I'm sorry if I hurt you, Charlie." She rolled her eyes just enough to let me know she was teasing, but there was still that razor-sharp edge in her tone. "You finished sauce yet?" I rose, still ashamed, and dove back in, chopping the mushrooms I'd cleaned earlier with renewed focus. This time it wasn't just about ticking off a to-do list. It was about the moment, about her, about me, about what really mattered. The mushrooms hit the pan with a beautiful sizzle and started to brown as they soaked up those meaty molecules like sponges. Once they released their water and had reduced down, they went into another bowl ready for use. The growing stack of components was shaping up, but I could still feel that moment. My stupid, thoughtless mistake. The rawness, hanging thickly in the kitchen air. A reminder that no matter how good the food, you can't forget what matters most. The sauce. Gravy if you want to get proper Brooklyn Italian about it. Needed time. Time to marry. Time to meld into that full-bodied, knock you on your ass kind of glory. There was no rushing that. You respect it. I let it simmer. Meanwhile, I turned to cleanup. Cooking's a dance, a constant rhythm. Even when you're standing still, something's moving, and if you're standing still, you're screwing up something that needs doing. Plain and simple. The sauce bubbled and hummed like a living thing. I grabbed the Chianti, poured a couple of cups in, wanting the sauce to have that complex velvety backdrop, like Phil Lesh's bass line holding everything together. Oregano, marjoram, thyme, basil, salt, pepper, let it all mingle, like old friends who haven't seen each other in too long, swapping stories and settling back into the groove. Then, a low simmer for at least an hour. Time was my ally. Charlie glanced over at the remaining pile of groceries lounging in the bag on the floor and asked me what she could do next. Her eyes landed on the cheese. Mozzarella to shred, Parmesan to break up. She didn't have a big grater. That's just not a thing in most Thai kitchens. Her tiny one was meant for ginger and garlic, not mountains of cheese. Her kitchen was minimalist, stripped to the essentials and nothing more. I took a long, deliberate gulp of wine, trying to find my way back to the calm, easy rhythm we'd had just a couple of hours before until I shattered us to pieces. So, we rolled up our sleeves and hand-shredded the cheese together. Slow, methodical. It wasn't fast or fancy, but sometimes the slow, clumsy way is the only way, and sometimes the best. As we worked, I felt her inch closer, like a magnet pulling two pieces of metal together. By the time the last shred fell into the bowl, we were hip to hip, caught in a quiet little bubble where everything else melted away. I reached for her. She reached for me. I pulled her into me and broke down. "I never, ever meant to hurt you. The thought that I hurt you hurts me so badly I just don't know what to say to make us better," I whispered, between shaky breaths and tears slipping down my cheeks. She held me tight, steadying me, grounding me until I could get my shit together. When she finally pulled away, embarrassment burned hot in my chest. I couldn't meet her eyes. I'd been a total dick. We both knew it. No need to say it. Then she cupped my chin, gently lifting my face to hers. We held each other's gaze, silent but loud with everything unsaid. And with the quiet tenderness of someone who's been there before, who knows what love really means, she reached up and wiped my tears away. And then she kissed me. Not the kind of kiss from a movie or lovers caught up in a moment. This was the kind of kiss that sees you, flaws, pain, and all, and stays anyway. I lost it again, tears exploding from my eyes. After a few deep breaths, tight hugs, and several splashes of cold water, and a reassuring embrace and nod that we'd be okay, I got back to work. Garlic bread was calling. Peeling cloves, chopping herbs, ready to make her tiny oven earn its keep. I coyly asked Charlie if she'd mind cleaning the greens. At that point, I didn't feel I had the right to ask anything of her other than more forgiveness. She didn't miss a beat, though, and giggled, slipping over to my side like she'd been waiting for this cue. She swung open the fridge and pulled out a bowl that stopped me cold. A gorgeous riot of fresh salad, laden with herbs and flowers from her garden. It wasn't just food. It was a damn masterpiece. She'd even found use for the mint I'd bought, though I didn't know why. Simple things made stunning. She'd taken a basic green salad and turned it into a work of art, and right then, I saw her differently. Not just the woman I was cooking for, the woman I'd fallen head over heels in love with, but a partner who sees the beauty in the small stuff, who cares enough to make every detail matter. She shifted in my mind from lover and admired friend into a bubble of incredible, special, talented, and resourceful. Baby, when did you do that? You are busy making sauce. I make the salad. I make salad every day. You are good cook. You work fast. You clean when you make a mess. You are really good. I blushed. No, really, I did. I didn't want you to get stuck with the cleaning. I try and keep a tidy workspace when I'm in the kitchen. It's easier to get everything done. I hope you don't think I forgot you. Charlie came over, grabbed my head in her hands, and kissed me with passion. You forget me now? Her musical laugh filling the space between us, the sparkles lighting up her eyes as we looked at each other. I took a long series of deep breaths. I held her hands and brought them to my lips, kissing them tenderly. Thank you for the salad, but much more importantly, your forgiveness. She laughed her music, smiled at me, took her hands from mine, placed them on my shoulders, gently urging me to turn around. I did. She swatted my ass, then leaned into my ear and whispered loving things I'll never forget. I took a deep breath, took a gulp of Chianti, and turned to her. Now it really gets messy. As I wiped down her small table, dusted it with flour again, unwrapped the pasta dough, and dusted the rolling pin. Jacopon had done me right, lending a marble pin that stays cool when working with dough. I started rolling out the pasta dough, slowly, steadily, evenly, knowing damn well I was in for a fight. Fresh pasta is a diva, moody, temperamental, and stubborn as hell. You've got to move fast before it dries out, or it'll snap back at you. No machines here, no safety nets. Just me, a dusted rolling pin, a dusting of flour on the counter, and whatever muscle memory I'd cobbled together over years of pretending I knew what I was doing. The dough protested, stubborn and thick in spots, threatening to split in others until I showed Charlie how to lightly dust the wet spots as I worked. I pushed harder, coaxed it thinner, rolled it out as evenly as I could. It was a dance, delicate but demanding, a battle of wills between us and that tough dough. I nicknamed it Cagney just for a laugh. And something clicked, as Cagney went from persnickety to perfect, and I got that blast of satisfaction that comes from making something out of nothing that you realize is going to work out just fine. By the time I had my stack of imperfectly perfect pasta sheets, my forearms were screaming, my hands, pants, shirt, and brain coated in flour, and my mind buzzing with anticipation. This was no store-bought nonsense. This was the real deal, ready to become the backbone of a lasagna worth fighting over. Just as I finished the pasta sheets, that's when my chef voice in my head screamed the next chicken crisis. The pan, you idiot! I'd forgotten to prep the baking pan. No oil, no herbs, no gravy, nothing. Disaster number 3 loomed like a health inspector showing up with his clipboard during the lunch rush at a greasy dive. I put the roller into the sink, sprinted to the counter, and saved my ass just in time. A slick of olive oil coating all surfaces by hand, a quick dusting of herbs, just a hint of salt, and a ladle of gravy to coat the bottom. Pan ready. Crisis averted. Back to the dough. Sigh some relief. That moment, that was the kitchen equivalent of seeing your souffle collapse just as the love of your life walks in for the first romantic, long-awaited, home-cooked, candlelit dinner. You panic, you hustle, and if you were lucky, you don't ruin the damn thing. The first sheets of pasta slid into the bottom of the pan like the calm before the storm. I pulled the sauce off the stove. It had reached the perfect point between almost perfect and I can't wait another minute, and grabbed the bowl of seasoned beef and pork, spreading it out in a thin, even layer over that pasta foundation. And then, boom! It was rapid-fire assembly time. Pasta layer, sauce, meat layer, sauce that, pasta layer, drizzle of olive oil, mushroom layer, no sauce, pasta layer, chopped fresh tomatoes drizzled with olive oil and herbs, sauce it, pasta layer, ricotta mixed with a fresh hint of herbs and a sultry drizzle of balsamic. No sauce, pasta layer again. Sauce, then a generous crown of mozzarella. I gave everything a final dusting of herbs from on high, like a chef blessing the whole operation, then slid it in the preheated 275 Fahrenheit oven, 135 Celsius. Baking fresh pasta lasagna is no joke because the pasta itself cooks faster than the fillings and the dried boxed stuff. You've got to drop the heat way down and let it go slow to get the balance of cooked pasta and heated layers of filling in equilibrium. Otherwise, the pasta turns to mush and the whole thing falls apart in a sad, gooey mess. At this stage in the battle, I was not about to let that happen. Charlie had never seen anything like this before. Her experience with Italian food boiled down to the occasional spaghetti and meatballs and squash ravioli once a long time ago. She'd fallen hard for both dishes at some Thai-Italian joint that probably wouldn't recognize lasagna if it smacked it in the face. But here she was, as I wrestled that beast together from scratch, the kitchen filling with an aroma so rich and savory it needed no further introduction. Her eyes widened as the scent curled through the air. Warm, comforting, and unapologetically America Italian. This wasn't some quick fix dinner. This was the kind of food that makes you pause, lean in, and believe for just a moment that everything's going to be okay. I moved on to the baguette, slicing it lengthwise and peeling it open like a razor clam. I make it a rule to prep bread early, because if I don't, I'll forget it, then rush it, which at some point the oven will start to billow black smoke announcing that I'd screwed the bread again. And after many years, I still haven't figured out a use for totally burned bread, though I don't think anyone else has either, therefore I don't feel quite so alone in that department. So, I've trained myself to pay way more attention to bread. Charlie, for all her interest in the lasagna, looked a little nervous, like she was waiting for me to ruin something else, aside from our relationship. But I was in my element now, and things were cruising smoothly. I took a breath and shifted gears. Dinner was under control. The kitchen finally settled into a now we wait rhythm. So we drifted into sips of wine and easy conversation about the beautiful edible plant growing in Charlie's garden. The kind of effortless chatter that fills the quiet cracks in a good evening, like the soft background music you don't really notice but wouldn't want to live without. We kept topping off our small glasses of Chianti, and before long the bottle was empty. It was better than decent and had enough backbone to keep the conversation flowing. The only hitch? Chianti, even the Classico style, sometimes comes with a tart, bright berry acid edge, which I love. Charlie didn't care for it. I leaned into her playfully and asked her to open the bottle of Lucci. She gave me a look like I'd asked her to perform brain surgery on me while I was in the middle of cooking. You've never opened wine before? No, I watched you open the other one. It looks hard. She was starting to get her English tense verbs and nouns right with a little coaching. No problem. It's actually pretty easy, I reassured her. She held the bottle of Lucci like it might explode if she looked at it wrong, which was funny because the glass they used could have shattered titanium, it was so heavy. It looks complicated. An excellent use of a word we worked with just that morning. It's not. Just a little cut, a twist and pull. I'll show you. I stood behind her, my head resting on her shoulder, her hands in mine. I placed the corkscrew I picked up at the wine shop into her hand and walked her through it, step by step. Cut the foil and remove. Center the screw into the cork and push to seat the tip. Twist it in evenly until the first hinge tooth can grip the lip. Pinch and lever the cork up to the first hinge. Release, twist the screw in deeper, and pinch the first hinge again, but this time to the cork. Seat the bottom tooth against the lip, then slowly but firmly leverage the rest of the cork out. I placed my hands over hers as she worked, guiding but not taking over. The trick is to feel it, not fight it, like coaxing something out of hiding. Like you? She said, glancing sideways, a slight grin blooming at the edges of her mouth. I laughed. Exactly. Except I come out grumpy and covered in flour. She gave the final pull and the cork popped free with a soft sound, like a sigh. Her eyes lit up with surprise, equal parts pride and delight. I opened it. Look, Larry, it's perfect. She exclaimed with pride of ownership. I noticed this particular moment vividly because it was the first time she crafted perfect, concise sentences. I kissed her cheek. She bounced on the balls of her feet. She held the bottle up like a trophy. I asked her to pour us 2 small sips to try it, while letting the rest of that big Brunello beast breathe. We clinked glasses, quietly this time. No big toasts, just that kind of soft mutual understanding that things were gently falling back into place. I smelled the cork and she asked why. I explained to her about TCA, 2,4,6-trichlorosanol, commonly known as the cork taint, which can permeate and ruin a bottle of wine. The cork smelled clean. We tasted our sips and her eyes bugged out. Oh, that is alright, she exclaimed, grinning at me. Now we wait, I said, explaining how bigger wines with age on them need a little time to oxygenate. I checked the oven and it was like seeing an old friend. The lasagna was almost there, but I had to finish strong. There wasn't a broiler in Charlie's little oven, so I cranked that bastard to max heat and prayed. 10 minutes later, timed by one of the 4 kitchen timer apps on my phone, perfection. Bubbling cheese with mahogany brown patches, crispy pasta edges curling around the rim like they were trying to escape from lasagna prison. I pulled it out, silently cursing the burn on my fingers as I juggled the pan with 2 thin and damp kitchen towels. But it was worth it. The aroma wafted up like a slow-motion nasal orgasm, announcing that dinner was now a work of art. I tossed a fistful of crumbled Parmesan on top and let that melt into the mix. The bread was now in the oven, a different timer set for 11 minutes. Now it was time to team up with Charlie and make the kitchen disappear. I moved like a Red Bull-fueled teenage prolonger. Wiping counters, cleaning cooking gear, grabbing plates until I saw 3 settings at the table. Not 2. Now when did she do that? I didn't ask, just marveled. Who else was coming? A friend? Mom? Or worse, Dad? I didn't ask, but I did take another courage sip of wine. I fork whisked together a quick olive oil, balsamic, salt, pepper, lemon zest, and herb dressing for the salad when a knock on the door broke the magic of just the two of us. I reached for Charlie, held her tight, kissed her fiercely, then whispered, "I love you, Charles." She smiled and spun away and went to answer the door as the timer dinged, announcing a perfectly crisped baguette. I pulled it from the oven, the two halves splayed open like a book waiting to be read. No way was I letting this garlic bread fall victim to overthinking or showmanship or bad timing as a guest showed up at the door. Here's a quick rinse technique for great garlic bread. A fat clove of raw garlic per side, sanded down generously on the crumb, followed by a slow drizzle of good olive oil. Then a thin smear of premium butter to carry all that flavor and temper the acid in both the garlic and the oil. A scattering of salt, a buckshot scatter of fresh chopped herbs, and back into the oven for just a few more minutes. The result? Crusty, garlicky perfection, like a good handshake, firm and confident. It was Jax at the door, looking like he'd just sprinted out of the restaurant. He'd pulled one of his guys off the line to cover the bar so he could taste my concoction. Charlie had been sending him pictures throughout the entire process, which I didn't realize she'd been doing. She showed me one later of me covered in flour, but with a stack of pasta sheets. The comment I learned later after she converted it from Thai for me was, "Watch my honey cook in my little bun. He is amazing," with a love heart emoji. I'd never been so flattered. As I plated food, I felt like a proud parent sending their kid off to school. Nervous, hopeful, and secretly convinced they were the smartest one there. The lasagna? Perfect. The bread? Perfect. The salad? Bright and alive, and more than perfect. The wine? A goddamn lovely miracle here in a cozy little bon here in Bangkok. Charlie was first. I watched her face change after that first bite. Eyes widening, breath catching. She said something in Thai that sounded suspiciously like, "Oh God." It was the kind of sound I wanted to bottle and keep in my pocket for every bad day that might come in the future. She didn't need to say a word, but she did anyway, turning to me with a look that dared me to blink. "Je t'exagère," scrumptious, as she drew that word out like taffy, the Thai equivalent of a Michelin star. Then came the garlic bread, the wine, and the look she gave me, part wonder, part admiration, all heart. And me being me, I had to tamp down my ego before it started puffing up like overproofed dough. Arrogance is a trait I'd recently fought hard into the trash can at the curb. But pride? Pride's harder to shake when it's staring back at you from across the table full of love and grinning with a mouth full of lasagna. Jack's, though, was a different story. The man ate in total silence, each bite studied like it held deep answers. He looked at it, lifted the edges peering under the hood. No small talk, no polite filler, just quiet focus. When he finally looked up, I knew something was coming. But when it did, it penetrated like a bullet. This This is the best Italian food, the best lasagna I've ever had. Where did you learn this?" I smiled, not giving away the satisfaction that was bubbling up in my chest. When a solid restaurateur gives you high praise, it's hard not to shout up at the stars in glee. "Does it matter?" I said, pretending to brush it off, but inside I was thinking, it was hard as hell to pull off, but hell yeah, I nailed it. My mom was a really great cook, especially the deep French classics. But she was pretty good with American Italian standards, too. She was very patient with me in the kitchen when she figured out that I was having fun helping her. Over the years, it's been a mix of places, people, and practice. I worked in a few restaurants as a kid, and I cooked at home nearly every night and never shied away from a challenge. I learned by doing. Cookbooks, trial and error, watching, tasting, studying. The usual, I said casually, as if that was everyone's path. You ever want to open a Italian restaurant in Bangkok or Chiang Mai? I can make that happen. And that's a serious offer on the table here and now. You do know how old I am, right? I emphasized old. I chuckled, but I meant it. Look, Jax, thank you. Seriously, that's an incredible comment, and I am deeply honored. But this is a young person's game, and you know that. I know the financials, the staffing chaos, fluctuating food costs. The day you have a critic come in and the fucking oven dies, or the health board shows up and there's a dead rat in the dried goods that wasn't there that morning. Well, at the same time, the walk-in compressor craps out as the dishwasher's ODs in the bathroom with a needle in his arm. Add to that the burnout hours? I know myself. If I had to cook the same dishes every night, I'd end up hating something I really love. Jax burst into laughter. Yeah, those days happen. I get it, bro. But this is next level. Better than anything I've had anywhere. And I love Italian food. The bread's perfect. And this wine? Best I've ever tasted. I looked at Charlie. She'd been quietly listening, her eyes tracking every word. She reached across the table, took my hand in hers, and said softly, "This is the best meal I taste ever. Kopkun Maka." You're very welcome, honey. But your help, your belief and patience with me, made this possible. Without you. And then my voice caught. My thoughts did too. There it was, unspoken but real. The lump in my throat said the rest. I gulped deep breaths so that I wouldn't burst into tears again. Charleroi and I decided to stay in that evening, despite Chakapan's insistence that we come by the restaurant for a cocktail. Or 10. I sent him off with a few generous slabs of lasagna to share, making him swear he wouldn't hoard them all for himself. He grumbled, but promised half-heartedly, which was probably the best I was going to get. With dinner cleaned up, we strolled back to the apartment so I could swap out a few things and put away the laundry Charlie had so thoughtfully washed for me. I'd get her back for that as I tried to figure out some kind, generous way to repay her. And no, dinner didn't count because I was going to do that anyway. Back at the Sunreno, we puttered. I knocked out a few small chores while she tidied. We gathered up the fruits, yogurt, and granola from the fridge, packed a clean change of clothes for me, then noticed a small note from housekeeping, a small smiley face drawn next to one of the flower vases from 2 nights ago. Charlie gathered up the flowers and candles to take back to her place while I packed my day pack with essentials. Back at Charlie's Bon, I opened the Tokaji, the Hungarian dessert wine that I had slipped into the mix at the last minute. Again, her reaction was priceless, as was the wine. Small sips, eyes wide in delight. She looked at me and said, "Apricot, nutty, and cooked honey." She nailed it. I'd mentioned early on, as we were still unraveling each other during texts and chats, that a friend, I'll call her Malaya, would be flying into Bangkok on the 29th. We'd planned to head south for New Year's Eve, and I made it clear. Malaya was just a friend. Charlie understood, but there was a subtle tension beneath her calm, a quiet unease hanging in the air like a shadow waiting to fall. As the date crept closer, I found myself excited for the adventure, yet dreading the trip without her. Yet Charlie, ever steady, reassured me that timing and logistics just wouldn't work. Her family would insist she be with them for their traditional end-of-year rites. She asked if I could cancel and come for New Year's at her family's vacation home in Lam Me Phing, in the Rayong province, a popular beach resort town. It was close to where I'd be anyway. I desperately wanted to, but knew I couldn't, at least for that year. That night, the heat pressed heavily in on Charlermon's small house. No air conditioning, just fine mesh screens letting in the night symphony. Frogs croaking, crickets chirping, insects buzzing, all in their primal mating serenade. We lay together in that warm stillness, sharing secrets, dreams, and wishes, bathed in the flickering glow of a single pillar candle. Time slipped by unnoticed, the night bleeding slowly into dawn. I wasn't tired. Instead, I felt alive, strangely, peacefully, and utterly awake. I turned to Charlie and asked, voice barely above a whisper, "What do you want to do today, honey?" Her smile was soft, her certainty absolute as she raised her palm gently to my cheek. "We are already doing this. I love this. Just this." Then the floodgates burst open. Tears came raw, uncontrollable, and cleansing. We held each other tight, bodies trembling as the flood spilled over. Love, grief, fear, release, and relief, all crashing at once. It was a torrent of emotion I didn't know I needed, a catharsis that even the monastery's intellectual clarity had never offered. And knowing she shared the same sacred vulnerability, maybe this was what love really meant. I thought I had known love before, but this was something so much deeper. I gazed into her dark almond eyes and whispered without hesitation, "I am deeply and irrevocably in love with you, Charleroi." "I am the same with you, Larry," she breathed back. We drifted off in each other's arms, not from exhaustion, but from the quiet settling of souls laid bare. When we awoke, the heat had intensified, sweat clinging to skin as we roused slowly. We pulled ourselves together and walked back to the Sunreno, sharing a long, slow, cool shower that washed away the night's remnants, both physical and emotional. Refreshed, we ventured out to our favorite dim sum spot. As I began to fill out the order sheet like a seasoned local, Chef Yip appeared, pushing a cart piled high with steamers and plates of our favorites. His grin was wide, thumbs raised in salute. I rose, bowed deeply, offering respect and honor to a friend who'd become family. He patted my shoulder with warmth that said, "You're one of us now." I was falling in love with Bangkok even more. The rest of the morning drifted along like a slow Sergei Chaloff tune, easy, unhurried, and wrapped up in each other's arms. First at the Sunreno, then over at Charlie's place, where the world outside was politely told to fuck off. We didn't want to be anywhere or with anyone else. The weight of last night's feast still hung around us like a fat cat refusing to move off the bed. We spent time cuddling, laughing, and testing each other's resolve to not get out of bed. I asked Charlie if she fancied something lighter for dinner. "You cook or we go out?" she asked. After a delicate dance of negotiation, which, honestly, was me waving a white flag. I wanted noodles. Again. We settled on home-cooked fish, veggies, rice, and a crisp garden salad. I knew her kitchen by now and wanted something simple but elegant. A classic French bière blanc with delicate white fish sounded perfect, though I was going to lighten it up a bit. Then the real challenge. Find a flaky, delicate white fish. I scribbled a shorthand shopping list into my phone and planned a trip to Big C at Asiatique. They usually had what I needed, or at least close enough to improvise. I was ready for whatever culinary curveballs might come my way. We had risen and I started to move about and tidy things up, with bigger plans for a total space shakedown. Charlie, however, had other plans. Cleaning was put on hold. Passion punched in for its shift. 3 hours, 2 near injuries, and 1 broken hair tie later, We took another shower, laughing at our tangled mess of limbs, trying to rinse off and reclaim some shred of public decency. We set out for Big C, a little wobbly, slightly disheveled, and with the kind of goofy, "we shouldn't be out in public like this" look that surely gave the produce section something juicy to gossip about. First order of business: match the Bière Blanc's buttery hug with a fish that could stand up to it, but keep things light and elegant. We hit the fish counter and bingo! Barramundi. A beautiful fish that's hard to find in the States, has a delicate, buttery, slightly sweet flesh that begged to be treated like black cod's cooler cousin. Fat, fresh, with eyes so clear and scales so shiny, it looked like it had just walked off the set of a Cosmo seafood shoot. Thanks to Charlie's expert translations and a few wildly enthusiastic hand gestures from me, the fishmonger sliced off 2 perfect fillets clean as a whistle, free of spine and ribs. I asked for the head and skeleton, too. The poor fish guy blinked at me like I'd just proposed marriage to his daughter, which surprised me. I smiled and explained I was making a fumet, because nothing says serious chef like turning the heads and bones into liquid gold. He had no idea what I was on about, which surprised me again. But bless him, he handed over a couple extra heads and spines from previous monger duties. Gratis. Apparently I'd saved him from tossing those into the bin, so no harm, no foul. Fishy karma points awarded. Cooking rice and fish stock in Thailand might very well be like lighting incense with a blowtorch. Technically possible, but guaranteed to raise eyebrows. Here, rice is sacred, almost always served plain, proud, and unsullied, like it just stepped out of a temple. Sure, there are variations, but rice is expected to either play a supporting role or be the star of the show itself. I, however, had other plans. A little French flair? Try full-on Bocuse. And when you've got the chops, why not use them? We moved on to produce. I snagged a bag of fat shallots like I was planning a hostile takeover of a Parisian bistro. Beurre Blanc is butter and shallot based. An onion, a fennel bulb, a leek, some celery, tarragon, and parsley, and I was good for the sauce and the fumet. Then I saw leafy green stalks of asparagus, smugly erect, begging to be steamed, wrapped in porky goodness, and eaten with inappropriate noises. I grabbed them. That created the need for melty cheese. I found a tidy little brick of fontina hidden among some brie rounds. Prosciutto, too, because I may be in Bangkok, but my stomach speaks fluent Italian as well as French. So yeah, I was going continental instead of sticking solely to French sensibilities. Charlie, meanwhile, had cozied up, hugging a big, fat bag of morning glory like it was a long-lost friend. I wondered if I should be jealous, she was so enthralled. I mean, it was perfect, but hey, I'm right here. She, of the perfect gleaming smile, said she'd whip up pad pak bong, that holy grail of stir-fried greens that I love so much. Of course, that meant we needed more garlic because Jakapan, the lovable yet sneaky scamp, had run off with our last cloves. I would have too. Of the good red stuff from Klong Toei Market. We needed reinforcements. More butter was a no-brainer. The garlic bread and sneaky addition into red sauce meant we were running low, and the Beurre Blanc doesn't make itself without a lot of butter. It is French, after all. We grabbed roughage and a firm cucumber for the salad, a couple lemons for a sparkly drizzle, and 2 bottles of Macon Village's Chardonnay. Important because it is stainless steel finished, unoaked, which works better for sauces and as a bright foil against all that butter. Why 2? Do you really have to ask? Cart full, hearts full, appetite rabid. It was time to cook, but this one was going to be much easier than the night before. It was mid-afternoon. The day had ripened into something sticky and swollen, thick with heat, haze, and a smoggy soup of toxins that clung to our skins and crawled into our lungs. Bangkok was sweating, and so was I. My chest and throat had that old familiar tightening, a subtle reminder that, while I only sometimes dealt with asthma, my blood pressure was a more consistent bastard, and days like that were bad for both. Charlie, though, had it worse. A congenital heart condition had been her lifelong companion, a quiet predator she'd learned to live with. Our medicine rituals had become a kind of macabre bonding routine, two people clicking open pill bottles like bartenders lining up shots. Mornings and nights, we swallowed our scripts with the kind of dark gallows humor Bukowski might have written if he'd been even slightly in love and less drunk. Charlie suggested a massage parlor within easy walking distance for later in the evening that had a sauna and a wonderful soaking tub. I was hugging her and saying, "Yes, yes, yes," before she finished the sentence. Yes to everything, except the happy ending. She laughed, play-punched my arm, leaned in close, and whispered with a nibble on my earlobe, "I'm your happy ending, and don't you forget it." No, ma'am, I could never, nor would I ever dream of forgetting that. Spa reservations made and plans set. Thank Buddha I hadn't returned the restaurant equipment yet. I needed a big pot for that fumette, and the sauté pan for the fish. Amazing company with someone you truly adore, then a killer dinner, then a long steam, a soak, and a massage? Hell yes! That's how you do self-care when the world outside is trying to kill you. Back at Charlie's, glasses of chilled Chardonnay at hand, prep got underway. I had one of those quiet, immensely wonderful moments when you realize you've hit a groove with someone. We'd gone from friends to lovers to more than lovers to side-by-side line cooks without missing a beat. I explained the game plan, how it would all come together, and she jumped right in, fine dicing shallots like a sous chef on coke who'd done this 1,000 times before. She was incredibly fast, precise, and efficient. My jaw dropped. Then she sliced the fontina into perfect little batons just as I described. And then she launched into prepping the morning glory, and I saw it again. She fine-diced 6 cloves of garlic in less than a minute, like she was auditioning for a cable cooking series. Every dice was perfect, tiny. I looked at her, down at the garlic, then back up at her. She winked with a big smile, but said nothing. I'd been played. I've never been so happy to have been played in my entire life. I laughed at my naivete, then carried on gently shaking my head side to side in wonder. She held up the chef's blade that Jax had lent me. "Nice blade," she grinned, spun, and bounced on her balls. Definitely. Played. It was obvious that she had withheld some secrets of her past from me, too. We'd be talking about that later, in between kisses. Meanwhile, I got down to business with the fish heads and bones. No time for a long romantic cold soak here. This was speed dating for stock. Multiple cold water rinses kept the concept, clean and efficient, enough to get rid of most impurities. Into the pot they went with some sautéed aromatics that I'd started a little while before. Once the heads and bones were nestled in, I hit them with a generous pour of Chardonnay. Once to temp, in went just enough cold water to barely cover the mess. Bones, skulls, veggies, and herbs, and the flame came back up, but slow and low, to coax out every ounce of oceanic soul. After prepping out all the remaining ingredients, I skimmed the surface of the stock, gazed into the pot to see a beautiful clear broth, ready for use. Pro tip: never allow any stock to come anywhere near a boil. Stock should cook just above a discernible, delicate simmer. If your stock boils, it'll be horrible. Throw it out and start again. Charlie breezed through the salad like she was born with a paring knife in one hand, a champagne vinaigrette in her sippy cup. Clean, fast, methodical. She worked with a kind of quiet grace that only comes from cooking under pressure. That turned me on. She'd already rocked the walk, The morning glory and garlic stir-fry with oyster sauce and chilies was done in a flash, in a bowl waiting to reheat for plating. I got the rice going in the fumette and moved on to the next task. Everything was cruising. We moved together like a well-oiled machine, if that machine occasionally bumped hips and flirted over the cutting board. Charlie asked about the asparagus dish, so I walked her through it with broad strokes to see how she handled it. She nailed it. No questions, no flinching. She dove in like a pro. I fell in love with her all over again. Done right, it's a kind of side dish that makes your main course jealous. It's perfect with fish. Hell, it's perfect with anything except Captain Crunch. I use the oven to roast the asparagus, fontina, and prosciutto wraps. Normally I'd serve that with hollandaise sauce, but the Beurre Blanc would be pulling double duty. The Beurre Blanc came together fast, if not exactly textbook. Without a fine mesh chinois to push it through or a stick blender, the sauce had a rustic charm. Let's call it artisanally lumpy. I whipped the hell out of it to get it close to smooth, but no amount of elbow grease beats pushing a sauce through a tight mesh. No matter. I leaned into a French shrug and called it a day. Butter went in the pan with a splash of olive oil to keep it from burning, and the barramundi got its moment. Light dusting of flour and salt, no heavy-handed seasoning needed, just enough to kiss the surface. And into the pan it went. High heat, crunchy, crispy skin. Cook on only one side and let residual heat do the rest. When you hear the sizzle, you're on the right path. But the real trick is patience. Do not move the fillets. If you move them prematurely, the skin will be soggy and peel away, rather than crisp. Avoid the temptation to take a peek underneath. When you shake the pan and the fillets slide on their own, then they're done and you have to pull them off heat immediately. They're still cooking. The morning glory had been perfectly trimmed with a reheat in the oven next to the asparagus. I hadn't noticed she'd taken care of that. I'd come to realize she moves with stealth in the kitchen. So it was onto the plates at the same time as the asparagus. Charlie beat me to the punch, cracking the second bottle of wine without hesitation, like she'd been raised by Psalms. Quick, clean, surgical. Damn! That woman picked up anything and everything so quickly, it was marvelous. First bite? Magic. The kind of flavor that makes you close your eyes and reconsider your relationship with rice. Then a kiss, the kind that rewires your heartbeat and makes the cluttered kitchen vanish. One of those moments when time folds in on itself and you're not sure if you're in a Bangkok kitchen or floating somewhere above it. "Do you cook like this every night?" she asked. Fork paused midair with asparagus. "Pretty much. I love to cook. I love to eat clean, fresh, and I always take care of the people I love." I looked her dead in the eyes and let that truth land. No blink, no retreat, just the quiet, vulnerable clink of a sentence that meant exactly what it sounded like. She laughed. I smiled. The night leaned in a little closer. Without the shopping trip, dinner had taken an hour to pull off. Efficient, sensual, and deeply satisfying. Life was pretty fucking great. Yin Yang, the original massage and spa, sat on the corner of Charon Krung 72/4 Alley, a short jaunt from Ramada Inn. Our reservations were for 8 p.m. Dinner was done and the dishes rinsed, so we curled up for quiet snuggles and tales before heading out. At 7:30 we set off, though it would only take a few minutes to get there. But who wants to march down the main road when you can meander through a maze of canal alleys hand in hand? We stepped out into that smog-thick Bangkok night towards a lung-clearing steam and a massage that promised new skin and easier breathing. In one particularly lovely stretch, flower pots, faded murals, laundry hanging like prayer flags, an elderly woman spotted us. She smiled, all sweet and wrinkled, until she zeroed in on our clasped hands. Her smile collapsed into a scowl. Then came rapid-fire Thai, in a tone that didn't require translation. A scolding. Absolutely. Possibly a curse. Charlie lit up. I'd never seen her get her hackles up before. Unless martial arts was involved, and even then she was so even-keeled I wondered if she had some magical control over rage. But she spun on her heel like she'd been waiting her whole life to be heckled by this woman. After giving the old gal a verbal beating, she turned, wrapped herself around me, and kissed me full on. No tongue spared. The woman screamed at us. Charlie laughed. She's always nosy, gossips about all people, Charlie said as we sauntered past what I could only assume was a local ministry of moral outrage. Now she will really have something to say. We laughed. That woman probably put a hex on us as she shook from moral outrage. Inside, Yin Yang greeted us with soft lights and quiet music. The day had cooled, though it was still smoky and humid, the kind of weather that makes your pores feel dirty and your t-shirt think about up and leaving mid-stride. If you've never been to Thailand, you're missing out. Not just for the beaches or the food or the temples that look like Buddha hired a top-notch jewelry designer, but for the massages. Oh, the massages. The classic Thai massage, though? Be warned. If you've ever made an enemy of your chiropractor, Thai massage will finish what they started. Those practitioners will bend you like a pipe cleaner and smile while they do it. In the moment, it feels like you're being used as a demo in a medieval torture museum. Afterward, you'll float out with a blissed-out grin and no memory of your name. Personally, I prefer the essential oil deep tissue massage. It's less human origami and more melting into a puddle of semi-conscious goo. We checked in and filled out the usual spa paperwork. What hurts? What shouldn't be touched? In the States, that's legal CYA to make lawyers and insurance agents sleep better. In Thailand, the questionnaire is simply good manners. We sat down as 2 cups of warm, sweet herbal tea appeared in front of us like magic. We'd signed up for the full spa couples treatment, sauna, soaking tub, and side-by-side massages. The sauna was wrapped in stone, the air thick with cedar and slow herbal heat. When the door closed behind us, the world narrowed. A hush settled in. Everything inside was slippery. The bench, the air, our bodies. We moved carefully, blindly, groping through the haze. Slipping, tangling, not out of urgency, but alignment. It wasn't just lust. Okay, not only. It was something warmer, closer. That low, golden frequency when time loosens its grip and the moment leans in. We emerged 15 minutes later, flushed and glistening, 2 dumplings just lifted from a steamer. Outside the sauna, the world felt too sharp, too defined. The tub waited, dark, steaming, still. After the jolt of a cold rinse, we eased in. The water received us. Flower petals floated on the surface, drifting into lazy eddies. Her knee brushed mine beneath the surface, a soft, passing touch. Then her hand found mine. That was enough. More than. We said nothing, just water and breathed, heat and quiet. I leaned into her, nuzzled the warm hollow of her neck, and breathed her in deeply, gratefully. My lungs had opened. I remembered what it felt like to breathe. When we stepped into the massage room, it was like entering a temple designed by a candle hoarder with excellent taste. Dark wood, soft fabrics, and that spa smell. A mix of leather, freshly washed cotton, lavender, tea, and rose hips. We lay side by side, freshly steamed, boneless. I reached across the gap and touched her fingers. She touched back. Just a glance, a breath, a little, "I'm here." The masseuses entered, ghosts with warm hands. They poured warmed oil over us as if they were anointing royalty and got to work. Slow, strong, certain strokes that pulled toxins out of me with each pass. Toxins flowed out of my pores, but it felt deeper than that. Stress I didn't even know I was carrying got coaxed out and gently dismissed. Charlie sighed, one of those deep, full body sighs announcing pleasure and release. I could hear she was smiling. I could feel it. When our massages ended, we didn't move. Not out of sleepiness, though we were drunk on calm, but because it felt like getting up would snap the spell. We stayed still, fingers twined, breathing in tandem, candlelight flickering across oil-slick skin. Eventually, we sat up, slowly, surfacing from a dream we weren't ready to leave. I wondered why we shouldn't book another massage. We slipped into the robes they'd left out for us, soft and thick, smelling of wildflowers. Charlie's hair curled at the temples, damp and lovely, like a watercolor sketch of herself. She looked undone in the best possible way. The spa was silent, as if it had quietly closed up shop after giving us exactly what we needed. We padded barefoot down the hallway, past closed rooms. Cold, sweet hibiscus tea and fresh-cut mango awaited us in the lobby. Outside, Bangkok hadn't stopped, though it had the decency to dim the lights. The night air pressed close, thick with heat and something sweeter, sandalwood and jasmine. We didn't rush. The city could wait. We walked slow as if the night owed us something. Shops flickered. Motorbikes buzzed past like mosquitoes on Red Bull. Paper lanterns swung overhead, glowing like promises no one planned to keep. But all of that was backdrop. Set dressing. There was only her hand in mine. The whisper of her hip brushing mine when the sidewalk narrowed. The hush between our footsteps, where 1,000 things could have been said, but didn't need to be. It wasn't silence. It was trust. It was the kind of quiet that only happens when the world fades out, and the only thing left is the person walking beside you and the heat still rising from the pavement. We didn't say a word. Didn't have to. The night was ours, and we knew enough not to ruin it by talking. Morning came. It was our last full day and night together for a while. Charleroi and I would have to simmer down and survive on text bubbles and WhatsApp video chats, but for now, I was hoarding every millisecond with her. I would be heading to Ko Chang with my friend Malaya, a trip I'd been excited about for weeks. A tropical island, a new adventure, and a chance to reconnect in a completely different part of the world. But leaving Charlie behind for New Year's felt like a gut-wrenching betrayal, a feeling I'm intimately familiar with. Kind, understanding, soulful, insightful, and wise. No, not me. I was a roiling mess. Charleroi embodied everything good, pure, and true in this world, and I'd fallen into love, tumbled and spun into her cloudy bliss. I hadn't planned to meet someone during my travels. In fact, when leaving my monastery, I had made a quiet, serious vow to myself to avoid the temptations that reel you in if you, like me, haunt nightlife adventure and have a romantic soul. But Charlie wasn't some late-night detour. She wasn't a hookup or an escape. She came at me like weather. Unpredictable, undeniable, unstoppable. A tsunami of presence and intention. Her love didn't coax me out of hiding. It tore my walls down and flayed me naked. I would be checking out of the Sunreno with no plan for where I'd land once I'd looped back to Bangkok. Something would present itself. It always did. Some unexpected, slightly too perfect place with AC that hummed just right and a balcony with a view of everyday life. A large part of me wanted to return to our neighborhood, to retrace the steps we'd worn into the sidewalk like initials in wet cement. But another part craved a last 2-week hurrah in the Sukhumvit. I wanted the crazy. I wanted the neon overload and the overwhelming tide of possibility. I wanted to lose myself in it just to see what might be waiting on the other side. And I wanted Charlie to join me, even though she had her life and responsibilities there in Bangkok. She wanted me to move into her place, and a part of me screamed, "Yes, yes, yes!" I seriously considered that and what that would mean, because if I did, there was a distinct possibility I would never leave Thailand. Not an idea I was adverse to. But that was for later. For now, we stayed in bed. We talked. Not the kind of talk you do to fill space, but the real kind. The kind that peels back layers, which wanders through the past and plans toward a future that feels half possible, half fantasy. We talked about what this was, this love that had rapidly grown between us like some impossibly tight-wrapped bud ready to burst into an even more beautiful blossom. And all the while we stayed close, drifting deeper into each other with urgency and reverence. That ache, that sweet craving that comes when you know everything's about to change. Eventually, reality slipped its fingers in. Our stomachs growled in unison, equal parts biology and metaphor. That kind of hunger wasn't just physical. It's a reminder that you're alive, that you are tethered to the world again. And when you are in sync with someone, truly in rhythm, it's uncanny how the sine waves line up. We looked at each other and simultaneously, without discussion, in perfect symmetry, we vetoed dim sum. The psychic timing of it undid me. My eyes welled. So did hers. That's when you know you are surfing the same swell. When decisions arrive wordlessly, effortlessly, simultaneously. When connection doesn't feel like work, it feels gently divined. We wandered along Charon Krung until a little cafe oddly named Fresh Milk Family pulled us in with the scent of strong coffee and something sweet in the air. We enjoyed overtly excellent syrupy Java so fruit-forward it didn't need sugar, the flaky croissants that exploded with every bite, and fresh fruits glistening, colorful, so perfect that the plates looked like still life paintings rendered by a master from the past. I asked Charlie about her family's Year traditions. Something gentle in her expression shifted, like a door creaking open to let history slip in. All us who can gather? Is that the right word? Do you understand? We cook all the time and learn what has happened in the family lives. I stay at my family house with brother, sister, cousins, and sometimes for some strays, like you, except we cannot sleep together or sexy time. She looked at me, her eyes darting all over my face, smirked, then smiled, then started to laugh, and laugh more. "What is going on in that beautiful head of yours?" I inquired. She couldn't stop laughing. When she finally surfaced, fanning the air in front of her face with a menu card, she explained, You, you, Ye Sandeng Dao will never stop asking you every detail of your life, ever." And with that, she started laughing again. "You are in for a long time with me and Ye." It hit me with the subtlety of a big bag of pig iron falling on my head. Like most people on the planet, at any given time, they come with family. I had been so happily enshrouded in our own private universe that in the beginning, when we were telling all about who we were and where we came from, I had only given that obvious fact a cursory mental glance before returning to us, to the here and now. I'd have to endure a proper grilling, a macro to micro examination of a journalist's salient big five questions: who, what, when, where, why. All of it, and more. This cold splash of reality flew through my brain in a millisecond. I looked at Charleroi, kissed her, and ran out the door. No, I didn't. I didn't consider that option for even a second. I looked at her, cupped her face gently, kissed her deeply, and said, I want to meet Ye Sangdao. Your mom, your dad, your brother and sister, your cousins, every single one of them. I want to sit with them, listen to their stories, help chop vegetables, do the dishes, and earn whatever trust needs earning. Anyone who wants a piece of me can have it because they're part of you. Bring it on. I paused, took a deep breath, and added, But if your grandma grills me so deep that I start speaking in tongues, I'm holding you personally responsible. Charlie exploded into that full face smile of hers, so radiant it could melt Antarctica. Her tears came fast, no hesitation, no shame. She threw her arms around me like she was anchoring herself to something real in a world that sometimes tilts too hard. Her grip was fierce, though not desperate. She rocked me slowly, like we were the only two people left on the whole damned planet. And then, in a whisper that fluttered with intensity, she pressed her lips close to my ear and kept saying again and again, like a mantra she didn't want to end, I love you, Larry. I love you, Larry. This wasn't just, I love you. This was, I love you! Shouted to the heavens between heartbeats. It wasn't performative. It wasn't rehearsed or planned. It was pure instinct. Raw, unbridled truth. Her truth. I didn't need to respond. Charlie already knew how I felt about her. I'd shouted it from the rooftops. I'd whispered it into her ear in the quietest corners of the night, and again in the middle of crowded Bangkok streets. She'd seen me at my worst and glimpsed what might be my best. Like Sinatra sung, the best is yet to come. And somehow, impossibly, she had embraced it all. The heights, the wreckage, and all my tangled contradictory mess in between. But this moment, this was hers. Her time to offer something unfiltered, soul deep, and sacred. I felt her need for this, and I had no reason, no right, to interrupt that outpouring. I stayed quiet, still, and let her words fall over me like a blessing. Inside, I was screaming the same truth back at her. My own love, my own wild declaration was building behind my ribs like a choir waiting on its cue. But it would have to wait. My words would come later. Hers deserved airtime. We'd made quite the scene in that little cafe, so we tipped well and made a quiet exit before we were either politely asked to leave or dramatically escorted out by some medal-winning Muay Thai champion wielding a long blade, as in the days of old, and a glare that could stop traffic. The rest of the day had no schedule, and that was exactly what we wanted. We weren't chasing sights or checking boxes. We just needed to be. And more than that, we needed to be tangled up in each other. Indoors felt too small for what we were carrying, too quiet for the pulse between us. We kept walking, my arm slung over her shoulder, hers wrapped tight around my waist, our bodies stitched together like a banner. We weren't subtle. We didn't want to be. This was claiming in motion, a loud, burning parade of possession. I wanted to wear Charlie like a second skin, to breathe her in, to make a meal of every step beside her. The world could stare. Let it. I'd stopped flinching at happiness. But today wasn't about me. It was about her, what she wanted, what might make her laugh, tilt her head back and flash that radiant, wrecking ball smile that left me soft every time. I asked her to take the reins. Show me something you want to do, I said. Anywhere in Bangkok. Or hell, beyond, as long as we're doing it together. In hindsight, that might have been a tactical error. Transportation was on the table in all its chaotic glory. Cab, tuk-tuk, grab, BTS, MRT, maybe all of the above, plus a long-tail boat, a Sherpa, and a yak. But this time I wasn't going to micromanage like the neurotic farang I can occasionally be. She could handle it. Charlie was organized, graceful, and unfazed by the urban mayhem, whereas I had the transportational instincts of a blindfolded chicken in a rotating wind tunnel. I handed her the route, the lead, the day. I had transformed into a man who'd finally stopped trying to pretend he knew what he was doing. "I want to ride roller coasters with you," she said, grinning as she dug her fingers into my ribs. Charlie had recently discovered that I am absurdly ticklish. Not just giggly, full-blown, can't breathe, gasping for mercy, arms flailing ticklish. And she loved it. She wielded her discovery like a benevolent tyrant with a new magic wand. All it took was a twitch of her fingers, and I'd dissolve into a helpless puddle of laughter and defeat. The cruel irony? She wasn't ticklish. Not at all. I tried everything. Sneak attacks, soft brushes, the old feather on the foot trick. Nothing. She'd just look at me with that serene little smile like, "Really? That's all you've got?" Okay, it did do something, just not the squirming, shrieking, fall off the bed response I was going for. But that story, well, let's just say that's not a story for you. I hadn't seen anything resembling a roller coaster in Bangkok. Not a single amusement park, traveling fair, or neon-drenched tilt-a-whirl with a raucous calliope blaring away in all my wanderings to date. No spinning teacups in parking lots, nothing. If there were thrill rides in the city, they were playing a damn good game of hide and seek. And yet, Bangkok is so huge you could hide another country in a corner. But I had no doubt Charlie knew exactly where to find one. Because Thais love fun. It's not just a pastime here. It's a personality trait, a national undercurrent. It's in the way they eat, the way they laugh, the way they greet you with a smile that says, "Let's not take this too seriously." Sanuk, the Thai word for fun, is more than just a vibe. It's a principle. If something isn't Sanuk, what's the point? But fun in Thailand isn't always about noise and spectacle. It's sometimes quieter. A shared dessert on a curb, a pickup volleyball game in an alleyway, singing badly, but with heart, at a karaoke joint down some winding soi, kids splashing strangers with buckets and massive super soakers during Songkran, aunties gossiping in a circle while shelling shrimp. Life here is laced with playfulness and connection. But here's the deeper truth, one that marks a beautiful and enormous cultural divide. In Thailand, even the simplest, most ordinary activity can be sanuk if one is sabai enough to recognize it. That is, relaxed, present, and open to delight. If you look at the world through grateful, unfiltered eyes, the kind that understand that simply waking up in the morning is a cause for heartfelt celebration, then joy becomes a built-in feature of life, not a reward you have to earn. It's neither performance nor loudly displayed. It's in the spirit of being with others, of laughing easily, of honoring the moment for what it is. It's a beautiful thing. You should try it on for size. It always fits perfectly. So if Charlie wanted to ride the rails, she wasn't just talking about adrenaline. She was inviting me into simply another prismatic facet of her flavor of Sanuk, into the part of Thai culture that takes your hand, spins you around, and says, "Come on, let's laugh at this whole ridiculous thing together." I was 100% in. "And my darling, where would we do that?" I asked, trying to sound casual, though I was buzzing with curiosity. "Siam amazing. It's fun and cute. Take a while to go there, but we laugh a lot. I promise." We hurried back to her barn, where she swapped out her sandals for sneakers and slipped into clothes clearly made for, as she put it, getting into trouble. Then came her stern orders, delivered with perfect theatrical flair. Bring swing trunks. Bring a second t-shirt. No questions, no negotiations. Fun was going to be serious business. "Yes, ma'am," I said with an overly theatrical salute. My backside got a swat for cheek, though she had that love look in her eyes as she delivered my punishment. Today was going to be playful, equal, and I had the privilege of a peek into her inner child, on her terms. I'd been invited to join her party, and honestly, there was nowhere else I wanted to be. Even if I did projectile vomit on the pendulous pirate ship, she'd just have to duck. We made record time back and forth to and from the Sunreno. A grab car was summoned with a few app taps, and since it was only 4 minutes away, our prep was quick. Presto changeo. We retraced our steps to the alley entrance along Charan Krung Road. By the time we arrived, our grab was already waiting like a patient accomplice. We hopped in, the city rushing past in a blur of neon and chatter as I felt the heat of anticipation. An amusement park. The last time I'd been to one was back in 2001, when my daughter had turned 5, wide-eyed at Disneyland. This would be a whole different kind of day. Siam Amazing had all the rides. You know the ones. They spin you this way, twirl you that way, and twist you sideways until your stomach threatens mutiny. There were rides that shot you straight up into the sky, dropped you like a stone into some merciless chasm, then jerked you left, right, and every diagonal direction that made your insides slam into your spine. Oblong loops and obtuse angles, right-angled drops followed by immediate left turns, flips that flipped us upside down and inside out like a bodily physics experiment gone horribly wrong. They were all there, each one a siren call daring us to lose breakfast. The air buzzed and pulsed with old-school carnival cacophony. The relentless whine of motors winding up, safety bars snapping shut with a metallic clack, and the shrieks and laughter, half terror, half delirious joy, as riders rocketed past. Neon blinked and spun in dizzying patterns that turned my head to jelly, competing with the heavy scent of stir-fried dishes that was a completely bizarre menu of offering in the buffet hall. Sadly, there was none of the traditional carnival goodies that I grew up with, like sweet funnel cakes melting in syrupy goo, caramel popcorn sticking to fingers, and the sweet, sticky tang of cotton candy dissolving on the tongue as spun sugar clouds collapsed into a sticky mess. Then again, that's probably for the best, as I would have definitely lost my stomach. My heart pounded in my chest like it was trying to escape, my breath caught in a nervous hitch. I could feel bile rise, not from fear, but in the pure, unfiltered craziness of it all. The overload of noise, color, and motion rattling my nerves like a blender on high speed. Charlie, meanwhile, was all grins, the fire in her eyes, an impish spark that said, "Bring it on." She wanted to conquer every single one of those hellish contraptions. And despite my brain screaming, "Abort mission!" my body somehow tightened with excitement. Because if I was going down, I was going down right alongside her. Stomach churning, laughter bubbling, hands gripping each other for dear life. Once Charlie had gotten her adrenaline fix from being spun, flipped, and catapulted, we decided to skip lunch and change into pool gear. Siam Amazing, in case you didn't know, is home to the world's largest wave pool. That's not hyperbole. It's a bona fide Guinness World Record holder, as proudly advertised on a sign near the entrance. And it lives up to the hype. It's less wave pool and more inland tsunami generator. Mostly it's the sheer size of the pool, though the machine-generated waves were also more than substantial. Fun fact, in order to generate the waves, the engineering behind the motion displaces 500,000 gallons of water, then thrusts it up and out with a force that's unbelievable. The details are intense, but the results are awesome. Teens shrieked with delight as water came rolling toward them like Poseidon was out to make sure that everyone was thoroughly soaked. Floats were launched skyward. Towards the shallower edge, toddlers clung to their parents like adorable little barnacles. Kids rode the crests, limbs flailing, shouting over the roar of water and each other. It was a symphony of splashing, laughing, and the occasional whistle from a lifeguard who looked one tantrum away from quitting. Beyond that was the lazy river, lazy in name only. Yes, it looped gently around rocks and palms, but with the number of kids dive bombing off inner tubes and Charlie's sneak attack, dunking me from behind, relaxing was not on the menu. It was like trying to meditate inside a water park themed rave. And then there were the slides. Towering structures painted in every shade of neon anxiety with long supersonic speed building trenches, while others spiraled into corkscrews, sudden drops, and dark tubes of watery doom. Some slides were open air serpents, letting you see every gut wrenching twist before you hit them. Others were fully enclosed blackout tunnels that shot you down at Mach speed, spinning you through blind curves before ejecting you into a pool like a human bullet. And yes, each slide came with a complimentary high-pressure chlorinated sinus douche. Nature's way of reminding you that fun sometimes comes with a head cleansing. Charlie was in her element, all gleeful shrieks and slippery hugs, dragging me from slide to slide with an energy that could have powered the city. I barely kept up, but I didn't care. This was her domain, her Sanuk, and I'd been handed an executive pass. Soaked, sun-drunk, slightly bruised, and with water lodged somewhere in my middle ear, I realized I hadn't laughed this hard or felt that light in years. We climbed into the back of the grab car, mostly dry at that point, sun-dazed, smelling of chlorine. Charlie's disheveled hair, usually elegantly kept, had gone full aquatic rebel, curling wildly in the humidity. She looked beautiful. She always did. But this was a different kind of beautiful. Joy-wrecked, carefree, au naturel, and completely at peace. She curled up next to me like a content cat, her head tucked beneath my chin, one arm slung across my chest. Her hand found mine without looking, our fingers lacing together in that quiet, instinctive way that couples do. The cab rolled forward, Bangkok's traffic humming around us, but inside the car everything slowed to a honeyed crawl. Neither of us said much. We didn't need to. Her body was warm against mine, our laughter still echoing in the space between us. She let out a long, happy sigh that could have doubled as a lullaby. "Did you have fun?" I asked, brushing strands of hair from her forehead. She nodded without lifting her head. "Mm-hmm. My cheeks hurt by smiling too much, but I had fun because I got to ride with you." She pulled my arm tighter across her and murmured, "You good man, darling. You're not scared of crazy Thai girl." "No, ma'am," I said, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "I'm absolutely terrified, but I'm in too deep now." She giggled, half asleep already, and I could feel her whole body relax the way someone does when they feel completely safe and secure. That felt like something. No, that felt like everything. Outside the window, Bangkok shimmered in the late afternoon haze, temples glowing gold, scooters weaving like fish in a current. Street vendors stirred walks and fried delicious things with hypnotic rhythm. The city pulsed with life, as always, but in that back seat we had carved out a little pocket of stillness. We headed back to our neighborhood cleanup. Maybe nap, maybe not. I didn't know what the rest of the day would bring, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the need to plan it because I already had everything I needed, tucked under my arm, fast asleep. I hated to wake her, but we were back at the alley along Charon Krung. Charlie had really conked out, and I had reveled in every second, holding her to me, feeling her slumbering breath spread across my chest. Honey, we're back home, as I gently pushed more errant strands of hair away from her face and gently caressed her awake. Big shower or little? Hmm, big shower, honey, as she drifted back into this world. I asked the driver to U-turn and take us 100 yards to the apartment instead. After a long, luxurious hot shower, the kind that clears your head and peels the day off your skin, we were wide awake again, refreshed and recharged. It felt like time to refill the slate. Not wipe it clean exactly, but layer something softer over the adrenaline and wild ride of the afternoon. I wanted something slower now, something a little more sedate, but still carrying the brightness of Charlie's mood forward. She was glowing, crackling with renewed energy. I didn't want to dim that. She looked surprised when I took her hand and led her across the street to Asiatique. But first I made a point to detour past her store where her employee was doing a brisk and competent job of keeping things running, so we could use the actual crosswalk. You know, the kind with a traffic light and painted lines, where cars are legally obligated to stop instead of speeding up to test your reflexes. I know, wild concept. Where's the fun of not playing real-life Donkey Kong with your vital organs? There was something I wanted to do that paired to the surreal Siam Amazing themed day. We walked arms looped around each other as I steered us toward the enormous Ferris wheel at the north end of the mall. Asiatique Sky. It's the largest Ferris wheel in Bangkok, in all of Thailand, and one of those where you sit inside a fully enclosed gondola instead of dangling your legs like bait in a carnival seat. I got our tickets and we climbed into our own little capsule to ride the sky. The ticket gives you about an hour, enough time for everyone to enjoy a turn at the top. Charlie was delighted, and to my surprise, she'd never ridden it before. We settled into our floating tiny house, just the two of us, pressed close together as we rode steadily into the dusk. The city fell away beneath us in slow motion. Lights sparkled into life across the river while the Chao Phraya shimmered in the twilight, restless and tarnished silver. And up there, wrapped in the quiet hum of the wheel and the soft rustle of Charlie's breath beside me, bliss. After a few slow revolutions, it was our turn at the top. I'd like to say we behaved ourselves. We didn't. But I'll leave the specifics to your imagination. Feel free to fill in the blank pages however you see fit. I assume there must be cameras in those gondolas. Not that we got any barked orders over a speaker while we were up there. No flashing lights or, sir, this is a family attraction announcements. But when we stepped off at ground level, the attendant gave us a look like the weary expression of someone who's seen one too many rom-coms play out on his shift. We weren't the first, and I'm confident we won't be the last to kiss in the sky. So we shrugged, laughed, and walked off into the night like two teenagers who'd just gotten away with something small but wonderful. Over the course of late-night conversations, between temple visits, strolls, snacks, dinner planning, and everything in between, I'd learned something surprising. Charlie had never tried Indian food. I had overly exaggerated a gasp, which earned me a playful slap on my ass. Not once. That felt like a culinary oversight of near criminal proportions. And since we were both ravenous, running on nothing but Siam Amazing, Ferris wheel adrenaline, and warm fuzzies, I figured we could kill two cravings with one meal. I did a little research and found a spot just up Charon Krung Road that had rave reviews. Yes, I know, never trust online reviews. That's why I had a backup plan. I texted Jax to get the local verdict. Yeah, bro, it's excellent. I've got some pals from Pakistan, and this is one of two places in BKK they go. It's not fancy, but it's solid. That was good enough for me. When someone with Pakistani friends signs off on the butter chicken, you pay attention. Plus, I had a little post-dinner surprise in mind. Something quiet. Something us. That didn't mean we were going to head out looking like we'd just rolled off the back of a tuk-tuk and rolled in the street. I'd plans for after dinner. So we made a quick stop at Charlie's place to get her changed into something a little more international or intentional. After a shower, with the evening breeze starting to lift off the river, I helped her pick out an outfit. Subtly, of course. I didn't spill the beans about the post-dinner surprise, but I did steer her toward an elegant smoky gray ankle-length dress that flowed when she walked. A shimmering black silk tie-it-up belt and soft cream wrap with her black flats completed the look. Effortless, but quietly stunning. Charlie didn't have an extensive wardrobe per se. There simply wasn't room for extravagant clothing options, and that wasn't really her personality anyway. Her collection was more a curated arsenal of well-chosen pieces. Smart, versatile things that could be mixed and matched for anything from a street market lunch to an unexpected night out with a touch of magic. She trusted my judgment. Or maybe she just liked the way I was ogling her in that dress. Either way, it was perfect. Masala of Indian wasn't exactly going to win any design awards, unless there's a category for odd color choices and fluorescent lighting that was having issues with continuity. But if the food was even half as good as promised, I didn't care. I wasn't looking for ambiance. I was looking for something rich, warm, deeply spiced, and authentic. Something that could wrap us up for our last night together before the week pulled us in different directions. We stepped into Masala of India, which was only about half full, though that wasn't hard to achieve since the place had a grand total of 8 tables. Charlie told me to handle the ordering, and since she had a known affection for those incendiary little mousedrop chilies, I knew spice tolerance wouldn't be an issue. I went classic. Butter chicken, lamb vindaloo, spinach dal, butter naan, papadum, saffron rice, and mango lassi. As we waited, Charlie launched a full-scale charm offensive to get me to reveal where we were headed after dinner. It was a relentless campaign of feminine mischief and coquettish ploys. I loved every second of it. Darling, I said, desperately trying to hold my ground, try as you might, and you're getting dangerously close to picking the lock. Isn't it better to unwrap a surprise than go snooping in the closet? She pouted. Total sham. We both knew it. Then she launched a full-on offensive, batting lashes and smiling eyes, then coy sideways glances. When she whispered seductive promises about later activities, she almost had me. But I reeled it in at the last possible second before losing my resolve. Not gonna work, baby, I laughed, though she almost had me with that last bribe. Thankfully, the service was quick, and soon the papadum and its entourage of chutneys arrived alongside the mango lassi. She snapped off a crisp shard, dipped it in the pu- pudina chutney, and took a bite. I could watch that woman discover new flavors all day, every day. Oh, Larry, miras klumkel gim, she beamed, using one of the many Thai expressions for delicious. And that's just the appetizer. Just wait, honey. Indian food is a revelation. By the time we had finished those crispy, thin fried lentil crackers and chutneys, the main dishes started to roll our way. Every bite was a discovery. While Thailand is rightfully famous for its curries, Indian cuisine operates in an entirely different flavor universe. Less herby, more warming spice, like being hugged by a spice cabinet that's read the Bhagavad Gita. The butter chicken was perfect. Tender, creamy, subtle tomato whispers in a spicy, buttery curry base that felt like it had been slow danced into existence. I'd asked for that one with light heat, knowing full well that the vindaloo was going to light our skulls on fire. The naan was perfect, pillowy and golden with just the right char and chew, while the saffron rice had that braggart grain by grain fluffiness that only true rice masters can pull off. One thing I've always appreciated about good Indian dishes is portion control. The chefs know how deep, how rich, and how overtaxing their dishes are. It's very rare to go to a quality Indian restaurant and get loaded up with bulk. Instead, portions, while not small, are smart, just enough for two or three at a stretch, which means that you don't waddle out of their restaurants, but you always leave completely satisfied. There's also something deeper at work in Indian cuisine, the philosophy of balance. Many spice forward food cultures understand this. There are warm spices and cool spices, and they don't just affect your palate, they affect your dreams. Literally. Warm spices like cardamom, clove, cumin, and cinnamon can send your brain into vivid psychedelic technicolor territory. Cool spices like fennel, coriander, and mint help you rest. It's real. It's studied. But tonight, we were riding the warm spice train straight into the sensory jungle of the Indian subcontinent. Fast forward to empty plates, and we were out the door. I'd had Charlie wear flats for a good reason. We were walking to our evening spot. It wasn't far, but it required some main drag strolling. Remember that swanky hotel along the river I'd infiltrated for my morning reading session? That same property has a bar, the BKK Social Club, that was like everything else in the place. High end, sleek, and damned impressive. It had been ranked by every professional alcohol and booze rag out there, including a top 10 spot on the best bars in Asia list for 2024. That's right, not just Bangkok, not just Thailand, Asia. And if that wasn't enough, it held the number 12 spot on the world's best bars list. That's dope. As we rounded into the pathway leading to the hotel, Charlie squeezed my arm and asked quietly, as if not to disturb the plants, if it was okay that we were going there. I slowed, turned to face her, cupped her stunning face, and kissed her the way true lovers kiss. I assured her that we'd be ushered in without a hitch, and we were. She giggled. You are good with surprises. I love you. That path looked completely different at night. By day, it had a lush, shaded, hidden oasis vibe. At night, it was full of romantic jungle dreamscape. As we strolled hand in hand, another gatekeeper gave us the once over and silently swung open that 20-foot door as if they were expected without a second glance. These days, every bar on earth aside from your cousin's moonshine shack has a signature cocktail menu. It's mandatory now, like exit signs on the highway. Some are decent, some genuinely sublime, but a few are crimes against ethanol, dreamed up by overzealous mixologists with too much flair and not enough judgment. Thankfully, BKK Social Club's menu had only a couple of Franken cocktails. The rest? Solid contenders. Charlie, as she'd said at the Havana Social, wasn't steeped in cocktail culture. She asked for a mojito, but I dangled a suggestion. Maybe she'd like to explore a little more. There's a whole universe of flavor, texture, and layered surprises behind the bar. Falling into a habit too early in the game felt like a shame, says the guy who orders sapphire martinis almost exclusively. She gave me the stare, cold as Luca Brasi with a job to take care of, to determine if I was blocking her, choosing for her, or merely using the moment to nudge her towards a new discovery. Sometimes Charlie's visual interrogations bordered on seat-squirming, nerve-wracking, patience-testing, blissful agony. Unless I win. Then she breaks and bursts out laughing, breaking the spell. We'd started to fall into that game almost from the start, and it wound up a bad love who will break first. She usually won because staring at her natural beauty was like looking into a flawless 20-carat diamond set into highly polished platinum in clear midday sunlight. Sometimes there was just too much stunning to hold on to. But that night, I won. I was determined to not go down. Again. Teach me? She finally said, laughing. It would be my honor, darling. We eased into the rhythm that had fast become ours, a playful teasing back and forth, full of careful listening. Instead of asking her about specific flavors, I asked her how she felt. Right now. This moment. And wouldn't you know it? She opened a new door. Light, aromatic, floral, refreshing, strong. Sound familiar? With her firmly on Team Martini, I shifted to my second favorite, a Bourbon Manhattan. And yes, before you purists get all frothy, I know it's traditionally rye. I just prefer bourbon. Like I said, to each their own. And then came the bar fight. Not the barroom brawl kind. The first question out of our eager beaver waiter was vodka or gin. Bzzzt. Thank you for playing. At least he asked. And the fact that he asked with vodka leading the charge? Epic fail. I was polite. I was politic. I explained exactly how to make a martini for Charlie without the lecture because we were here to enjoy each other, not for me to put on airs and my teacher's cap. She'd already heard it during one of our late-night rambling, getting to know you chats. I don't even remember how I'd been coaxed into that martini riff, as Charlie is not a bartender about to fuck up a classic and needing course correction. She simply wanted a drink. Somewhere between the olives, cherries, and candlelight, we wandered into that late evening zone where conversation drips slow and sultry, like AAA grade maple syrup over naughty intentions. We'd already shared the meal. Now came the dessert course. Glances, low laughs, and the kind of teasing that hinted at pleasures still to come. The way she traced her finger around the rim of her glass, made later abundantly clear. We talked until the other customers had left and the bartender started wiping things down with that quiet urgency that says, "Please leave," but politely, with a side of ignoring our presence until it was absolutely necessary to turn out the lights. They knew what they were witnessing. Some moments deserve the long run. Charlie and I were shoulder to shoulder in the low amber light, the table in front of us holding the remnants of our last two cocktails, both half drunk and half forgotten. It had become a space for our hands to clasp, fingertips and palms, gestures and touch. "I want to go with you," she said, her voice low, threading through quiet jazz. "When you leave, I want to go." God, that hit hard. That kind of truth was delivered without drama or plea, just fact. Her eyes didn't flinch when she said it, and her voice didn't ask for anything more than honesty in return. "I know you do," I said, "and I want you by my side every moment for the rest of my life. But right now, it's messy. There's stuff back home I need to settle. I'll be camped up in a spare bedroom at a friend's house. It will be winter, like real winter, 10 degrees and snow and ice that doesn't quit." She smiled, soft and almost amused. "You think I care about snow? You keep me warm." "No," I laughed. "I think you care about being comfortable and with me, and not introduced to my life back in America through a back door I didn't even choose. Though now, I'm so glad that all happened. I know we've talked about it, but she and I shared so much. Except, of course, what she refused to share. And that's the stuff that hurt the most. Funny how she never understood, though I tried to make her see without throwing it in her face, that her actions are what kept me angry for so long." Her fingers found mine. Her eyes found mine. She didn't squeeze, just held. "I'll never do those things to you, and I can wait. But don't make me wait long. I love you, and want us. I want this. That undid me a little. I'm not sure what face I made, but it must have betrayed something because she leaned forward and kissed me. Not a shut up kiss, not a save me kiss, just contact, lips to lips, saying, I'm here. We'll get there, I said as I pulled back from the edge of emotional meltdown. We just need to do it right. And that means me handling things back home, so I can come back to you clear, clean, free, without baggage banging around behind me. I will help you unpack, she said, her radiant smile that could level cities. We stayed like that, entangled in words and plans and what ifs, until the last call had long since passed and the lights dimmed lower than they should have been. The bar staff gave us space. There are moments that deserve protection. She asked what it would be like. My town, my people. I told her honestly that my friends were amazing people, and if I loved her, they would love her as they got to know her and deciphered her Thaiglish. But that she wouldn't need to win anyone over. Not them. And we could tell the rest of my past to go take a long jump off a short pier. Just be you, I said. That will be more than enough. At some point we stood, slowly, like waking from a dream you don't want to end. We said deep, sincere thank yous to the staff for honoring our space with such polite discretion and stepped back out into the night air, soft and cool, sweetened with jasmine in the Bangkok dark. There were still hours left ahead of us, but that conversation, that sliver of real, was the beginning of the rest of my life. Back in her cozy little bon, we didn't make love. We didn't say anything more because nothing more needed to be said. We offered our blessings, together this time, to the triple gems, lit some candles and simply lay side by side, together, gazing into each other's eyes. Sometimes smiling gently. Sometimes a tear would trickle down a cheek, honoring the purity of what we'd found, out of the blue, organically, holistically, spiritually. We both felt it. We both knew it was real and pure and beautiful and completely unexpected. Neither of us was looked for, hoped for, dreamed of, or up. We just were two people from different sides of the world who had met over a pile of mangosteens and fell for each other in ways that only happen in stories. Thank Buddha, our story was real. I woke cramped and sore. We had fallen asleep holding each other so tightly it seemed we were trying to merge into one being. Neither of us had moved a millimeter during slumber, but now I had to. Buddha knows I didn't want to. As I willed my locked limbs and muscles to slowly move, Charlie stirred, breathed deeply into my chest, and pulled me tighter to her. If I had to live with physical pain to experience that kind of love, acceptance, adoration, fuck it. I had a bottle of naproxen and another of ibuprofen in my kit bag. I'd dose up later. The day of sadness was upon us. I didn't need to be at the airport until midnight to pick up Malaya, so I'd planned the whole day in advance. Get a haircut, my heroic follicles having made a healthy comeback from the scalping. Restock the pantry and fridge, shop for some board shorts and industrial strength SPF, and tidy up the apartment so Malaya could have an easy crash pad when she landed. A full schedule, locked in weeks ago. I scrapped every bit of it. This, right here. Charlie, warm and sleeping in my arms, was far more important than any damn haircut or new swim trunks. The apartment was already spotless. Malaya would be arriving so late we'd barely be awake by the time we got to the apartment, and we were only staying one extra night before hopping a flight to Ko Chang anyway. I'd buy shorts on the island and Unlike a tacky I love Bangkok tee, they'd be a better souvenir. Decision made, and since we still hadn't moved, I'd pulled Charlie in tighter. She stirred as I whispered, I'm canceling all my plans today until I absolutely have to leave at 11:30 tonight. There are moments when morning breath just doesn't matter. That was one of them. That was the poster child for, we should probably brush our teeth first, but screw it. Kiss me anyway. She didn't care either. Morning drifted into mid-morning, and we caught up on what we'd put on pause. Sweet, eye to eye, breath to breath, slow, unhurried. But beneath it all hung that quiet sadness, like the June fog that blankets San Francisco. We knew what was coming. We talked and decided, together, to pretend, for a little while longer, that time didn't exist. That this was all there was. That love could stretch the hours into a lifetime. Eventually, hunger pulled us from bed. We skipped dim sum again and stopped at her fruit shop instead, loading up on mangoes, mangosteen, papaya, pineapple, and a hami melon so sweet it made my teeth ache. We hit 7-Eleven for sparkling waters, yogurt, and protein bars and went back to her place. We spent the rest of the day living like we'd always done this. I helped her hand wash the laundry and hang it out to dry. We watered the garden and fed the plants. I took out the trash to the communal bins at the end of her lane. I scrubbed her little bathroom until it gleamed, restocking everything from her stash of toiletries tucked in a trunk in her bedroom. Then I cleaned her kitchen from top to bottom and made it sparkle like new. I packed up the small collection of clothes I'd left at her place. She loved to wear my Grateful Dead Winterland '67 t-shirt, especially when the shutters were open. I hadn't washed it yet. It still held both of us. I tucked it under her pillow. A little time capsule for while I was away. Meanwhile, Charlie placed her store orders, paid some invoices, and arranged for a cousin to pick her up for the family's New Year's celebration. Her movements were efficient, practiced, but I could tell her heart wasn't in it. Neither was mine. It was domestic bliss in its purest form. Quiet, ordinary, sacred. I wanted it to never end. She turned. She looked at me. Tears were streaming down her face. I pulled her into a tight, never-letting-go embrace until her sobs ebbed. I wouldn't stop kissing her brow. As the fear and sadness faded to an undercurrent, she grabbed her phone and instructed her staff to man the store. She would not be in today. There we go, everybody. We have made it through Bangkok. And yet another part of this very long chapter. Between those three parts, who my? What was it? 8 hours of reading? I saw you pop in a little bit ago and say hello, AC Sherman. Glad to have you here. Thank you for the fantastic suggestion. I think you will see I took it to heart. And Tronis, I know it is very late for you over in Germany, so if you happen to still be up, hey, thanks for being here. For all the rest of you guys that came along to join me on our journey today, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, that's how this chapter ends. We'll move into the next chapter on Tuesday. But yes, that is how this chapter ended. Not exactly how I expected it to, Andy, but that is what it is. So, either way, I hope you guys enjoyed the ride so far. Clearly, a vacation romance that is that they are hoping to maintain, and we'll see what happens after real life kicks them back in the ass. Again, I haven't read ahead. I don't know what's going to happen. We will find out. So, I hope you guys come along to join me on Tuesday where we'll start into Ko Chang. Flip the New Year, surfing the island vibe. And we'll pick that up on Tuesday, as well as whatever else we get through. Hopefully more than one chapter. I mean, let's see, we're in chapter 15. We've got, or let's see, we just finished 14. We got 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 left to go. A whole bunch of addendums, acknowledgments, and about the author. So we got ourselves quite a bit left to go. But we've made it through a lot of this book so far, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed it as much as I have. Again, he is kind of verbose in the way that he goes through some of these things, very descriptive, goes into enormous amounts of details on some things. I mean, cooking the lasagna was what, half an hour for us to read it, let alone how long it took him to cook it. But it sounded amazing. Either way, I hope you enjoyed it. We have now reached the end of our very long Bangkok chapter. He is definitely a character for certain. And again, we will pick back up on the story on Tuesday, and we will see where everything goes from there. As always, thank you to all of you. The greatest gift that you can give me is the gift of your time. And I appreciate that you guys gave me the gift of yours this evening, whether it was for 5 minutes or the full 3 hours. As always, I do these readings on Tuesdays and Saturdays live, but the chapters are available for you to listen to anytime for any of the books that I have done. Available on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/@SirArminius. If you have not checked it out, get out there, check out some of those videos. Give them likes, subscribe to the channel, share them with your friends. You know, all of those good things. And of course, if you have not already, if you've been enjoying the book, check out The Flow, A Hedonist Guide to Buddhism, Meditation, and Travels in Thailand. Available on Amazon and possibly other book vendors as well. If you look on the recorded YouTube videos, there will be, I think, 4 links in there for things that you can go check out about Mr. Larry Davidson. And I hope you do. When we reach the end of this, if you've been listening along, or even if you only listen to parts of it, go and write a review, would you? Reviews mean everything to an indie author. The more reviews you have, the more discoverable you tend to be, especially if those reviews are good. And if those reviews aren't good, it is a fantastic learning opportunity for the author. So check out the channel, listen to some of the other stuff that I have out there, and come back and see me again on Tuesday, where we will dive back into The Flow. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful weekend ahead. If you happen to be somebody in the United States who gets a long weekend, enjoy your long weekend. I hope it is good to you. If it is still Valentine's Day where you were at and you have a sweetheart out there, go give them some love, would ya? Until I see you guys again next time, have a great night, and I will catch you guys all again very soon. Thanks so much for being here with me. Good night, all.